Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, I'll read our school district's mission statement, grounded by our history as one of the oldest publicly supported schools in Wisconsin. Mineral Point School District is the heart of a small community that educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Okay, this is the April regular meeting. Need you to take roll call?
Bergstrom, Bush,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Heisler,
Here.
Allison, here, Sullivan.
Here.
Bergstrom is excused tonight. All right, we'll start with recognitions.
First, we're very proud to introduce Cindy Notham, named Outstanding Teacher of Mathematics by University of Wisconsin, Platteville, Southwest Wisconsin. Mrs. Notham is here. I hired her, so obviously I knew exactly what I was doing when I brought her in. Probably the best compliment I can give her is when my daughter was still in school. I remember she said, "Dad, good hire." So I think that comes as a huge compliment. But no, Mrs. Notham does an outstanding job working with all of our students, gives up a lot of time and her talent. Cindy, would you like to say anything?
Very honored to receive the award. Very thankful to be a part of a wonderful community in the area. Several of my college professors are still at UW-Platteville, and it was wonderful to reconnect with them. I got a huge hug from several of them, and how many years later after being on campus. So very thankful. And
A huge congratulations to Cindy Notham, as math teacher. Next, we have Coach Burrison, who's been a kind of a frequent flyer for us. Boys make second straight state tournament experience. I would like to point out that the school district has really stepped up in recent years. The last time Mineral Point sent teams back to back, the kids had to drive themselves to the game in Madison. So we at least provided transportation this year. Coach Burrison.
By the way, that was 1934, 1935, and Harry Ivy, as many of you probably recall, was part of that team. That went back to back in 34, 35. Got some of the guys here tonight that have been a big part of this thing, and just really good run. I mean, it was our fourth regional title in 4 years, third conference title in 4 years, and back-to-back state appearances. But all the credit goes to the guys and the time and effort they put into this thing, and really have put team first, as we've said all along. So we're real proud of them.
Congratulations to the basketball team. And then, not to be outdone by just playing basketball, but guys getting it done in the classroom. Coach?
Yeah, so we had 9 guys, 9 out of our 16 become academic all-state as well. So again, really student athletes, is not just on the basketball floor, but you see that same kind of commitment and the same kind of attitude in the classroom. And obviously that's kind of what we're shooting for, but 9 is a pretty impressive number.
So you consider the number of games, the number amount of travel, the number of nights away, late practices, everything that go into it. And to be pulling up that kind of recognition for your academics is something to be very equally proud of. So congratulations to the boys basketball team. Think boys want to say anything back there? We also have 3 students that were recognized all state. Oh, I don't know why the computer's being so glitchy here. Coach, any words on the all-state?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, a couple of these guys obviously walking out the door here in months. Jackson and Eli have been a big part of this thing for a long time, and they've been great leaders on the floor as well. But he said last night we talked about the run we've had here the last few years, and with Jackson, Eli, Jackson for 3 years, and Eli for 4 years. We're going to miss their leadership a great deal, but I think they've kind of passed the baton, and they've kind of showed others how to take that lead, and I expect really good leadership and really good play next year. But tough one to lose all 6 of those seniors, but Jackson and Eli, they're around here a long time.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Not to be outdone by the guys. I see Coach Chambers graciously showed up. We have our girls program, basically in the same position, all academic and a couple of all-state people. Coach?
Yeah, just to talk about the academics first, because, ultimately that's what we're about first and foremost is the academics. And, we have some tremendous kids in this district, and I've been a part of it for a long period of time. And they really throw their heart and soul into, whatever sport it might be. But the thing is, when you do something academically, like we have so many of them, you don't get to pick your favorite. You've got to do it to all of the areas. Now, I'm sure if they picked their favorite, it would be math anyway, but whether it's science, whether it's math, whether it's language, whether it's all of those, you don't get to pick them. You've got to be at a high level in every single one of them. And on the girls' side, 13 out of our 15 received academic all-state, so that's pretty impressive to go along with what the guys have done also.
So congratulations to the girls basketball team. Any comments on Lacey getting small state recognition?
And then Lacey, honorable mention, all-state. Again, an athlete that has put in a lot of time, received a lot of recognition for the stuff that she has done. But again, when you look at what we're doing here today and the people, the sports that we are recognizing, has there ever been a year that has been as successful during a winter sports season as we witnessed this year? Anything even close? I mean, the gymnastics, wrestling, boys basketball, girls basketball, pretty much a clean sweep.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So congratulations. Coach, how about wrestling? Maybe some familiar faces and names up there on the screen.
Yeah, Coach Chambers basically stole my whole speech. But realistically, kind of piggybacking off what he said, it starts with the teachers and the great teachers we have here and the work ethic of these kids, especially these 4. It's a high bar to make that academic all-state. The cutoff is 3.7 to just qualify for it for GPA. And the fact that not only all 4 of these kids, competed so well on the wrestling mat, but the fact that they're able to do that and continue their academics in a positive light it's a testament to I think the culture here at Point and the work ethic of those kids and all the kids that we have in all our sports. So it's quite an honor to be able to walk into the room with kids like that and be able to work with those guys and girls on a regular basis.
So congratulations to the 4 wrestlers here. As Coach Chambers pointed out, it's a pretty good winter for Mineral Point student athletes. The gymnastics, I'll call it a co-op, but we know there's 4 teams involved, competed at a state level, finished as high as they've ever finished at the state level. And our very own Allie Baylor, I believe this is the 2nd year in a row that Allie has been recognized as an All-American as a gymnast, which All-American says not just, Iowa County or that here's an award for being part of the Dodgeville Co-op gymnastics team. So a pretty high bar that she had to meet in order to make that qualification. So again, just congratulations to Allie. I know she's really proud of that because when she walked out of school tonight and I saw her walk by, I'm like, All-American, and she got red in the face and turned and started heading towards her car right away. But, it is impressive. It's a testament to the time and energy that these guys put in, these girls put in after schools, nights, weekends, wrestlers getting on a bus at 5:30 in the morning going somewhere, or, the gymnastics. There are not a lot of close competitions for them to be a part of either. So hats off to Allie Baylor and being recognized as an All-American. So we have a very successful FBLA program, and I see our advisors online. If she'd like to speak, Ms. Valerie Martin.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having us. Just a little bit about FBLA. So this is my second year at the district. We have 67 kids in FBLA this year, most in school history, up about 10 members from last year. We placed first at our regional leadership conference. So we had the most outstanding chapter award there, and we're able to advance 19 events to the state competition. From the state competition, we had 3 events that advanced to nationals, and that will be in Anaheim, California this year. Only one of the students is able to go, but still a really awesome experience for them. We also, at the state conference, we had one student receive the Lorraine Missing Scholarship, which was $1,000 to only 2 people in the whole state received that, and we had one of them. And then we also had a student who received the Who's Who Award, which honors just outstanding FBLA commitment and involvement. So he received 4th place in that. We also have 2 students who serve on the state executive council, had 2 students run for state FBLA officer positions. This year we had 6 members recognized for completing their business achievement awards, and then also 4 members recognized for their outstanding community service at the state leadership conference. So these kids, a lot of them are the athletes there also that are also involved in FBLA. So the kids are doing great things every year. They set their goals higher and they want to do better. So lots of good things happening on our end.
And if I'm not mistaken, don't you usually, aren't there a couple of students that usually have to come flying back here either because of an athletic event or because they are also part of Skills USA? Does that typically overlap?
Yeah, every year we're dropping kids off in Madison on the way home. So they compete usually Monday and Tuesday. We go home Tuesday night and then drop them off and they compete at Skills. Some of them come late up to Green Bay because they're finishing basketball or they have to leave early to go play softball or baseball. That's what just happens when you have very talented kids in different areas, but we make it work, and they just really showed up really well this year. So very proud of them.
And our scholarship winner just so happens to be in attendance here tonight. I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to guess who that might be. And Mr. Who's Who. Matthew, would like to say anything or not?
Yeah, it's been a fun last 4 years at FBLA. I went to nationals last year in broadcast journalism and learned a lot of really cool things, the events I've done. And it's been exciting to see us kind of climb up in the region up to getting first place this year as a chapter. That was a goal that we had going into this year. There's close to 30 schools in Region 4, including some really big schools. Both of the public schools in La Crosse are in our region. A lot of the schools in our area were one of the smaller ones. So have as much participation as we did and do as well as we did as a chapter with this year.
So congratulations to our outstanding FBLA students, our chaperone, our advisor, and the program as a whole. So congratulations.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, or just in passing, Skills USA has a competition in Madison, building and trades kind of pieces, all sorts of other areas. And again, I think this kind of speaks to some of the commitment that our staff members have of, if you're interested, I will try to find a way. That's certainly Mr. Carey's forte. He really helped our students excel in cosmetology. Maddie Burris is a national competitor. She won her event in cosmetology. Josh James, you saw, was second place finisher, so she's the alternate. So if Addie can't go, Josh could maybe go in her place, and we have some other students that are in that alternate based on where they finish. So if the actual champion can't go, and they only have so much time to determine whether or not, is this something I can fundraise for? Do I have it available in my schedule? If they can't, then it goes to the next layer. So I have not had a chance to talk to Mr. Carey yet and see if anybody else has been notified that they're going as the alternate. But again, a great competition, skills-based, career-based kinds of things. I know he said one of the competitions, he said we had 4 guys that basically you frame up a couple of walls, you put some roof trusses on, you sheet it, shingle it, you put wiring in, put plumbing in, you frame out a window and a door, you know, and it might be no bigger than these 2 tables put together, but that's the competition. You get it so far and then you're judged. So you start on one day, everybody stops at the same time, you come back the next day to finish it. And then experts in the field come around and judge, you know, your craftsmanship, your work. So, I mean, it's a pretty intense competition, a lot of things, a lot of skills going into it. And one parent really sent a very complimentary email to Mr. Carey and the administration just saying how their child has had an opportunity to really blossom and grow because of programs like this. And they competed, that individual was on this team. And it's just a great way for us to help prepare for future employees out here in our own community. So congratulations to our Skills USA team, our national qualifier, Addison Burris, and all the other competitors. So congratulations. And finally, for recognition tonight, we have an outstanding student in the spelling bee competition. Ella Horsfall is a 7th grader, placed in the top 3 in the Eastern Sectional and competed on March 29th on the Madison College campus. I'm not sure if Mineral Point has ever had anybody get it to that level, at least in my time here. I would have to do some digging, but I don't believe that we ever had. So again, congratulations on an extraordinary job. Somebody that if it wasn't for autocorrect on my laptop, I might want to sit down next to them every day and help me spell the words that I need to spell. But congratulations to Ella Horsfall and you know, outstanding achievement as a Mineral Point student. So congratulations. That's all I have tonight.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming, for recognitions for sure. We'll go through the consent agenda and then we'll go to communications. So we've got minutes from the March regular meeting, Finance Personnel Committee meeting on April 7th, policy on April 9th, and operations on April 9th. And we've got bills payable and credit card statement of activity. So I'll take a motion to approve these as a whole, or we can approve them individually.
Make a motion we approve as a whole.
Second. Okay. Coach Skelding, any questions, comments? The minutes, bills payable?
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Next, we'll go to communications. We'll start with board communications received. You want to start, Joni?
I have nothing to pass along.
Likewise.
I don't think I got anything either. Oh,
Nope.
Had a couple, just a couple people reach out, just about a recent opening, on the coaching staff, and just more curious about, I guess, how that happened or what the situation was. Just, I think, looking for info, but just said, you know, as far as I know, there's an opening, and that's what we know. So that was it, though.
No feedback regarding. that
No,
issue?
no,
Okay,
just,
questions.
yeah.
Okay. Mitch, I'm assuming something will come to light as soon as there's anything to update the public with from Mr. Carr's office.
He received a letter indicating resignation. from the position because those positions are basically at-will employees. We accepted the resignation effective the end of the season, and move forward with posting that as an opening, trying to get somebody hired, hopefully before the summer, so they at least have an opportunity to work with the players over the summer and kind of get something established before the school season would start. But just kind of just a decision the coach made.
Nothing else from the board? Okay. Go to citizen communications. You, did anyone sign up to speak? Okay. Anyone online? If you'd like to speak, you can use raise your hand icon. We'll call on you. Going once, going twice. Okay. Andy, you were interested in maybe moving up something on the agenda?
Yeah, I just wondered if the board didn't object, since we have presenters here, if we could move action item 1 ahead of information and discussion out of respect for their time and what could be some somewhat lengthy discussion.
Is that okay with you, Mitch? Yep. Do we need to make a motion to do that? Or we just need a,
I think you could, if you need to, you could do it just a simple voice vote.
okay, with a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So move then.
We'll move number 1 on the action item agenda to next on the agenda. Okay, motion by Heisner,
Second.
second Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Anyone opposed? Okay, wrestling crew, you're up.
All right, cool. You want us here? You want us there? So you don't have to keep turning around?
That would be
That's
great.
kind of what I figured.
I thought you were here to rejoin the school board. We
I
are
was
so
actually
excited.
thinking I was gonna apply for the basketball coaching thing.
Oh, okay.
I decided
What do
probably,
you know?
yeah, I'm not so good at that. So, okay, I guess for those of you that don't kind of know what we're talking about here, started off as a small group conversation. Everybody's familiar with Mineral Point Wrestling, correct? The history of it and our current wrestling room and our situation. We've outgrown that before it was even built. And now, especially with adding the girls division, our elementary school, our youth program is growing. Our middle school, for the last 20 years, we've been jockeyed around from the basement of the fitness center to the cafeteria to the elementary school gym. We just don't ever have a real place. So we're constantly commuting. We used to have the kids literally run down to the old fitness center from school so we could practice. So again, a couple of us started talking and we started to make plans of the potential to build a wrestling facility / compound for our wrestling program. And we came up with a location would be the gravel driveway at the end of the going towards Ross Street out here, just because it looked like a perfect spot. We did some measurements and our preliminary plans are 104 by 88. And that would, if you're driving out just to put that in perspective, it would basically be gravel to gravel, running north and south would be the 104. And then the depth would be about to the first light pole from the street, if that makes sense. So it's not taking up a huge amount if you actually look at it driving by. And that includes all the setbacks that we would need from the city streets, the lot lines with McGuire's. And that also gives us easy water and sewer access to the street or the facility. So we started putting together plans and spaces that we might need. So this is, again, preliminary walkthrough. It would have a boys and girls restroom and locker room, changing room, a lounge that you would walk in from the parking lot, the football field back here for parents, a small office. The main focus is obviously an 80 by 80 wrestling mats. And then there would be storage above these wings. Utilities would be actually in the corner of Ross and the driveway to make that easily accessible. And again, these are preliminary. We would need to go back through and have things, make sure we're ADA compliant, things like that. And we also realized the benefit of having it on school property would be we would be covered insurance wise. And to us, we thought it was no real difference than the football field or the baseball diamonds or anything like that. So, and we put together, it's a pretty detailed. I don't know if Mitch shared this with everybody, but you can go ahead and click through them, Mitch. And then if anybody has any questions of this kind of moving forward, there's obviously area for workout equipment on the other end. We usually have wrestlers.
One of the ideas you brought up was the kind of a vestibule out front.
Yep. This would be potentially a place to kick off our boots and shoes and things like that. So we're not tracking in. And then a staircase going up above for storage for these things. Those pictures are kind of boring, but it gets kind of cool when you start to see it in color.
Is it gonna be 2 stories?
It would actually be single story, but above this, there would be a storage. So these ceilings would be 16-foot ceiling.
Yeah.
So it would essentially be a 2-story, but it'd be a single, wouldn't be another level on that. Just above the bathrooms and the lounge area.
Yeah.
So this indicates the ability to put 4 mats down at one time. So you'd have that kind of space to work.
Correct. And Coach Schmitz designed these. It doesn't show it here. We have other pictures, but it actually has 36 ghost circles in here. So it's a 6x6 grid. So then we have, that basically allows us to have 72 wrestlers essentially wrestling on those mats at the same time to stay within your circles. And then they would still have the big circles. And then around here would be about a 4-foot wall to kind of partition. So people could walk around this to get to the equipment, to get into the rooms. And then this would be a solid wall here. It would be shut off from the wrestling room. And then a potential curtain to split that in half if we need to separate the mats. So that would be your walk-in view of your vestibule. And then that would be the lounge, for parents to kick back and talk and maybe watch film for the wrestlers, a spot for them. Desk area, obviously, for meetings. Entryway to the upstairs access for storage.
The storage would basically be over the top of the locker rooms and the bathrooms and that coach's office.
Yep. Which would give us sufficient storage for everything we would need. There's kind of a look at the room.
How does that wrestling space compare to what you have in this?
This is actually about 3 times the size of the area. The current we have is about 30 by 80. This is 80 by 80. So it would give us, again, sufficient room. And we know as coaches and past athletes that when the junior high kids, for example, are able to practice with the high school team, it really helps them. And not all the time, but that being in the same room with those upperclassmen really tends to help that group focus. And really, it really helps us drive. And then, and there's a lot of, again, this is just preliminary. That would be obviously for access for fire access and things like that. We would have to have everything code compliant. And this is just preliminary. And then again, with the girls growing program, we're right now we're figuring 10 to 14.
10 to 14.
First, possibly girls in high school this coming year. I know Coach Pitts had 30 girls. Was that correct at the last practice? Or one of your practices? So again, these are just pictures. And again, if you guys want to have these, we're okay with Mitch sending it to you so you guys can kind of look at it and see. And this was just to kind of get the ball rolling. So we've also spoke with the city on zoning, and the only hoop we might have to jump through with them if this moves forward is the siding of the building, because we'd have to get a variance to get a potential steel siding passed. We haven't decided on colors or shapes or anything like, or colors and textures, because we just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling with a visual of the inside, start from the inside and work out. So we knew the space that we needed. And again, so what we would really be asking for would be permission to build this on school property. The cost would be consumed by the wrestling club and the wrestling organization. It would be no cost to the school district. We would fundraise for this. We would ask the school to probably take out the loan, and then we would make those payments, because you guys would have a better interest rate. And as the Mineral Point Wrestling Club or a smaller organization, we wouldn't necessarily have that credibility to take out a loan that this may cost. We do have preliminary numbers on the shell alone. Depending on the size, it was just the shell with insulation, the shell, the concrete was going to be between 350 and 380,000, but that is not including the labor that we would give. We've talked to a local builder and he has agreed to help us out along the way and do everything he can and let us use our own labor as a wrestling community and materials and different electrical and plumbing and things like that, as long as it's all code compliant.
380 is just material.
That would be just the shell. That would be built, the shell built. And that would be through, Brian Steffes has agreed to help us out on this plans.
And that's including concrete.
That's including concrete, all the materials and all the labor to build the structure. Doesn't include plumbing, electrical and things like that. But as a wrestling community, we feel after talking amongst many of us, we're pretty deep and we have a lot of people that have a lot of experience in these trades. And Brian is more than willing to help us along the way and let us use our own labor and help us do some of those things.
Would some of those things be roughed in at least into the building?
Yes, it would have to be roughed in. We would potentially be looking to put in floor heat in. We're going to get prices on that. We also kicked around the idea, a couple of us just spoke of it today, of potential with that location. We would have the potential to get all day sun, would to be put up solar panels to essentially help run this facility, because it doesn't have to be, lights aren't on all day. Lights are on for practice and that's it. And we would have, if we had camps or clubs in there or something like that. But again, it would be, we would maintain it. The wrestling facility, the wrestling program would maintain all of the cleaning. We would maintain the snow removal on the gravel parking lot. It would be essentially our building. We would treat it like the football team treats the football field or the baseball team treats the baseball field. We would accept all responsibility to maintain it. And the laundry room, that was another thing that we thought would be essential to have, because we'll be cleaning with rags and things like that. So we'll need those things on site. Anything I'm missing, guys?
Not at this moment. I'm just waiting for questions from you guys if you have any about my end.
I got two questions. First of all, great presentation. Thanks for doing all the legwork ahead of time. I support this idea. So I guess my first question is parking. We're going to shrink that area of parking for the gravel lot. So, I mean, that lot's used for visitors, football games, and like big events, right? Like wrestling invitationals, Christmas concert, that kind of thing. So, I guess I just want to make sure that, we don't lose a ton of parking and have more of a parking issue ongoing. And maybe, is there any way that we can create more spots somewhere on the campus? I know we're getting ready to, I don't even know where that would be, but I mean, is there any way to kind of compensate for the loss of?
We do have two lots right up there on the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a major concern, number one? And number two, is there?
I think there's things that we could certainly explore. Obviously, topography is not really good at either one of the sites.
Yeah.
But, yes, giving up parking is a concern, but a concern on how many different nights, during the course of a school year. So, I mean, I think it's something that we could sacrifice for, the one holiday concert. We tend to park everybody behind the school so that the two big lots are available to the community. And yet we still have people parking on this drive and the gravel and everything. Same thing when we host a wrestling match. I mean, even with that gravel parking lot, we don't have enough space to house everybody. So if we're losing a few spots.
Yeah. So people do park behind the building and park like in that practice field back there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much that was utilized during busy events.
When we host regional, sectional, or the Clash, we tend to get that plowed off. We direct traffic back there to provide additional parking, especially if it's frozen, frozen hard back there. Yeah, we use that a lot for some of those biggest events. And still people are parking halfway downtown, by the water tower and to get here, so, and we've tried everything we can about putting buses in different places and shuttling bus drivers around and everything else. it's a good problem for us to have, and we only have a handful of times during the course of a year.
I will say too on that, Doc, that when you drive by it and you look at that light pole, you're only taking up,
Maybe a quarter or less, do you think?
I don't even know if it's that. I would say nine parking spots.
Okay.
I mean, if you went three, it's because we would actually go towards the street a little bit.
Yeah.
It's surprising because it doesn't seem right, but until you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, we're not losing much there. So.
Well, my second question is, so you got a quote for the shell and the concrete foundation.
And the mats.
And the mats. So is that about how much you'd want the loan to be for?
We would see. So what we would, upon approval, if that happens, we are compiling a letter or making a letter right now to send out to essentially all the alumni to ask whether they would be willing to donate labor or financially, because we really feel strongly that we would be able to raise a lot of the money right away. So I don't know what the upfront loan would be. We haven't dug that far deep into it. We didn't want to put the cart in front of the horse. So we would see. I think we would be surprised on how much we'd be able to raise through the club.
Mm-hmm.
When Nate and Colby came to school to talk to us about this, I reached out to school district attorney, just kind of, would you be able to help us? And, gladly, we've done several things like this in the past. They would easily be able to help draw up some kind of an agreement so that everything is kind of spelled out. They understand that they're paying for this. They understand the school would hold the loan. We are not making any payments on their behalf and those kinds of things. And Shayna Lewis from Lewis Running and Lacey would be more than happy to put together some kind of an agreement so that the school is protected as far as that financial position is concerned.
Does the wrestling club feel that they can service the debt through the tournaments you host and the fundraisers that you already?
If we were to not reach out,
Yes.
you're saying?
Yeah.
We haven't discussed that, just, because we haven't felt the need that would be the worst case scenario.
I guess what I'm asking is, does the wrestling club see positive revenue on a year-over-year basis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Depends how much their coach.
We all wish we were the wrestling club.
We would love to have this before this coming season, especially with the girls program growing so much, and the excitement around our past season. We would really want to get this moving as fast as possible. And I have spoke with Brian and he said, yeah, we can do it this year still. So that would be our hope. There's not much. And the other beauty there is we have multiple excavators that have went through the program, on either wrestled for us or their kids have went through the program. So
Underground, there's directional drilling.
Pretty much a lot of things. Yeah. Colby and I did get confronted when we were measuring, and we were asked if they were going to pave it, put basketball hoops up. And they came.
That's the wrong group to ask.
They came to Colby and I to ask this, which I thought was quite funny.
We would need to check. I know that there's some utilities that do run underneath the parking lot. We need to scope those things
Yeah,
out.
everything would have to be done before any excavation. Yeah.
Go ahead, Christy.
So you said that you're building it on campus, so that the school would cover insurance.
Well, it would, if I'm incorrect, Mitch, but just like the wrestling room, correct?
Yeah.
The facility, we're on the
Okay.
school ground, so everything is kind of covered under that same insurance
Okay,
policy.
I'm assuming it would increase a little bit.
Probably
Probably.
our liability insurance might go up a little bit with another
Okay.
building or whatever.
And again, we can definitely have that conversation, whether the club can cover that. I don't know that for sure if we would be in need of it, but we would also, another thing too, is we would like to maintain control of the current wrestling room, at least until this is up and coming. And if we needed to, shrink that down for maybe a possible weight room, we would definitely be up to do that. if we have everything that we need over there. Because obviously they still use the current wrestling room for gym class, for just about everything. So,
Tornado shelter.
yeah, so
And it could serve as your middle school location.
middle school, yes,
So
or
they don't have to ride a bus anywhere. They're here and practice basically right.
And in
where
the
they're going to
process
school.
of that too, now that's serving as the middle school wrestling, now that opens up the gymnasium down at the elementary school for any other athletics that may want to use that space, instead of the wrestling, laying down mats middle school wrestling laying down mats every night down there.
My other question is about the parking. Is the parking going to stay a gravel parking lot, or do you have intention to pave that? I'm not
Right now-
asking about basketball hoops. I'm just asking.
we're gonna put the hoops on the side of the building. Actually, that has come up, but we said for now it would just be gravel.
Okay.
And down the road, obviously, if it works out and, we have that support, then we would potentially do that.
So just to be clear on your last comment, so once this facility is fully built and fully functional, you still intend on using the current wrestling room for some of your middle school programs and other
Potentially.
wrestling activities?
Potentially for middle school or the girls program if we needed to separate the groups. Depending if we have the girls and the boys program, say we have 50 kids in there, that limits us. I mean, we don't really know how many kids we're going to have in the next few years. And we know the program is growing.
Just kind of to speak on, to that of kind of what I'm running into as far as next year goes. The WIA sanctioned girls wrestling 2 years ago, and we started with 2 girls on that team. That was our first year. The second year, this past year, we had 6. And now it's growing where I'm getting asked by girls a lot about coming out for wrestling. It's anywhere between 10 and 14. And obviously the flexibility of numbers obviously fluctuates depending on, the year and the class and all that stuff. But with the numbers that we're seeing from Coach Pitts and the off-season workouts and freestyle and Greco, it's continuing to grow. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the nation. So it's right now, I'm having to have the thought process of, do I split up practices where we're talking about girls right after school, boys right after that. And then in the situations where youth also uses that facility, we're talking about youth maybe starting at 7:30, and that seems way too late for a youth practice to go on. But it's certainly possible that, we may need that space. But again, I think it's used on the regular in the school setting, whether it's phy ed or whether it's, kids that are just going in there to read, or in some situations, special education, at least from time to time when they need to. So I think it's certainly flexible.
I guess the reason I ask is, we all talk about lack of space on this campus. And I didn't know if you or your staff had thought, Mitch, about, okay, if we had the wrestling room space back, this is what I'd love to do with it. And if for safety reasons, we have to use it as a tornado shelter, then we're probably limited on what we could put in there. Like, you couldn't fill it with storage, or you probably couldn't fill it with a bunch of weights.
Correct.
Right? So, I don't know how much you've thought through that at all, or if you have strong feelings about how you would need to use that space. But if there's no need, if there's no pressing need, or that would be a great space for X or X, and it's just going to be a space that you need to have open anyway, then it's less of an issue if you guys use it whenever you want, for whatever reason.
That space can accommodate every student and staff member on campus in the event of a tornado drill, and there is room to spare in there. So I wouldn't want to give up that space on that safety component. To Nate's point, we have been sending our middle school kids all over the place. They've used the elementary gym or one grade level's volleyball practice. You know, seventh graders may go down to the elementary school and use that for volleyball practice, and the eighth graders are using the back gym, you know, so they can at least practice at the same time. Basketball tends to be here, kind of running early and late on the small gym, but again, you know, to be able to just say to the middle school students, you don't have to get on the bus. Your wrestling facility is right here. And it makes great sense to try to accommodate that program and the number of students we have involved and our own kids involved. So while it would be wonderful to be able to say, yeah, we'll expand it, make it a weight room, you know, expand the size of the weight room, or we'll use it to store chairs and everything else out of the hallways in there, we still need that for a safety shelter. So we would not really be looking to take it over for something else.
You mentioned a few times the Growing Girls program and practice space. Do the girls want to have separate practices from the boys, or do they want to have?
I believe, without really talking to them in depth, I imagine they want to have practice with the boys. I think that benefits everyone involved. But at this moment right now, if I'm getting the numbers that I'm being told, it's borderline unsafe down there when it comes to the type of numbers that we're talking about. It's already really crammed in there this past season. Half the time during practice, I, along with other coaches, are simply just standing there making sure kids don't roll up on each other and people get hurt. You know, I mean, this year we had 32 on the team, and that's a lot to put down there and expect them to wrestle the way they do on a 40-by-40 mat, just them and one other person. So again, with the girls, I personally would like them to practice with the boys as well. I think it benefits the girls and the boys. I think it benefits the coaches as far as schedules, and I think it also benefits the youth, like I said before, of not having a youth practice twice a week go past 8:30, 9 o'clock. So.
Piggyback on that too, from the girls' perspective, it's from the girls and the girls' parents. You know, the comfort having both genders practicing together. We haven't had any issues, you know, that way. The girls, realistically, across the state, highest level girls are pushed at the same level as high school boys. And, you know, along with our program, I mean, our girls program, we want to be held to the same standard that our boys program is of excellence. And I think the girls appreciate practicing alongside the boys. Very rarely do they ever have to wrestle together. But when they're in the same room, they're pushed the same way. With me and my brother working for the same company that I do up in Madison, practice after school just really isn't an option for them. This year I was able to take a couple months of layoff during the winter, be able to come into practice every day, but during a 5-6 month long season, I can't really afford to take that much time off work just to be here for wrestling practice. So then you're looking at a growing program, trying to find new coaches as well. The boys coaches have been phenomenal about helping and taking care of the girls during those practices too. So if this is not made an option, we're gonna have to make some major changes. And I think overall, it's gonna really hurt the girls program. And just in the middle school and youth, the numbers are continuing to grow there too. And the high school is exploding. But right now I can see we're gonna continually have 2, 3, 4 girls coming in every year already. That's, you know, the way it's growing, that's awesome, but it's going to be a restock to almost a full team of girls every year for the foreseeable future. So this is humongous for the girls program, for us to continue to be successful and grow. I think this is the best idea that we can come up with, because we've kicked around a lot of ideas of how we can continue to make it work for them and for us as coaches and the rest of the whole team. And the camaraderie they have with the boys and the other coaches, you know, being able to go around for team state, you know, just everything like that was super, super cool. So I guess that's my 2 cents. They do want to be together.
Not to speak for Matt too, but I know Matt has also brought up, if that building is out there, about cameras pointing towards the entrance and anywhere else on the campus as well, weren't you, Matt?
Camera in there, park in the parking lot.
I have no questions. I support it.
My last question, I'm sorry, guys, but,
It's good.
I don't think most of this board was here when we kind of had that legal arrangement with the stadium club, the Gridiron Club. Can you explain a little bit more, Mitch, like what kind of risk the school district's taking on with this kind of financial arrangement? Because I mean, is it co-signing a loan or is it, I guess what happens if, and I'm not saying this would happen, but I mean, like, just so we understand or if someone comes up to me and says, you took out a loan for how much? And what if they don't pay it off? You know, I don't have a good answer to that.
Right. With the football stadium, there's a legal document basically stating that the school took the loan out on behalf of the Gridiron Club. The Gridiron Club is responsible
Right.
solely for making those payments.
Right.
Now, they set it up where for the first 5 years, if the Gridiron Club did not raise enough money through fundraisers to make the payment, there was somebody that agreed that they were going to make up the difference, an outside party, a third person. And then that was the first 5 years. And then the second 5 years, it transitions to another individual or family that had taken that responsibility on, so that the school was never making a payment. That club, the Gridiron Club, pays the school district. The school district then turns and pays the loan off. But it is in that legal document that we are not making any payments. We do not assume any financial obligation to that stadium. Those payments must come through the Gridiron Club.
But the school district took out the loan?
The school district took out the loan.
So if the loan payments are in default, what happens?
It falls back on this legal document. The Gridiron Club, let's say the payment is $30,000.
Okay.
The Gridiron Club comes up with 25,000 and they don't have a penny more.
Okay.
They give 25,000 and then they go to the guarantor
There's a legal guarantor on it.
that makes up the difference.
It's not the school. Okay.
That's required as part of the agreement.
That's how it was set up to
Yeah, but I mean,
alleviate.
so we would set it up in a similar way.
We could certainly do that in a similar fashion.
Well, I just want to understand what the intent.
Yes, I think
it's just,
I think the dollar amount will probably dictate, some of those kinds of things. It's like, is this within your capabilities? If it's a 20,000 or a 30,000 or $40,000 annual payment, what's within your wherewithal? And if it's like, well, we know we can make 30, then it might be, okay, then you guys might want to find somebody that is willing to guarantee the difference. And in the agreement for the Gridiron Club, let's say I'm the guarantor. If I have to cough up $5,000, the Gridiron Club, when it's all said and done with, has to pay me back that difference. So again, the school is not on the hook or anything. And the reason the school district went that route is because we got maybe like a 1.8% interest rate, which nobody else is going to be able to get. And that's why the wrestling club is asking if the school would consider doing this again, because of the low interest rate we would be able to establish through taking out the loan in the school district's name.
Okay.
And those are the things that Shana Lewis, that law firm, would be able to help us put together in a contract that would basically protect the school district and the taxpayers, paying, wouldn't come out any Fund 10, any school district account.
Would the final contract need to come back for full board approval once it's reviewed, or?
Yes. Because I believe the last one had a school board member, had like the school board president's signature.
Okay.
Superintendent's signature, booster clubs, and then the guarantor had to sign that contract as well.
Motion to approve this plan
I got
as stated. You got a question? We could do motion and discussion, but
I guess I don't have any issue with the design. It looks cool and I understand the need for sure. especially with what you're saying about the women's program. So, it was a matter of governance. I don't appreciate that this didn't go through committee first. I think like a decision like this, as a board that we're working on our governance, this is not good governance. So things should go through the committee and be discussed. And it's nice to not have to do that at a full board meeting because there's, long-term plans and all of that. And so Matt, if you don't mind coming up, as the head of the operations chair, so this is the first I'm getting of it. I have pneumonia, so I didn't read through the board packet over the weekend. But you gave me a tour of the school over the summer. And as far as the operations committee is concerned, the long-term plan of this campus is to go to referendum in 3 years and build a bigger addition with a wrestling room, a fitness center, and extra ag space.
CTE space, yep.
And other things. So we're in the process of sort of talking about that. It's something you were doing and, operations. There's other things like the solar panels and stuff we've been talking about. So, and you may not know that, and I didn't know you were doing this. Yep. And so this is like communication stuff that's really the administration should be transparent in you guys telling us that these guys are working on something that I had no freaking clue about. And then these guys don't know, hey, we're possibly going to referendum.
Well, I can't say we didn't. There's been chatter about the referendum, but
sure. And I understand like tonight that there's a immediate need, right? Like that you're talking about having to change the program because there's not enough people.
Possibly proposing for the referendum isn't what we're proposing.
I understand that. So anyway, I just think you might kill your referendum with this, is what I want to get out. And I would have rather have said that in a committee, not on camera. But I was really thinking we were going to count on the support of the wrestling community to get enough votes to do a referendum for an operational referendum 3 years after doing a capital referendum, 2 or 3 years after doing a pretty big operating referendum to get enough support from the community at large because of the passion of the wrestling community to sort of drive that home. So I don't love like having it separated from the high school. And again, I'm just like having to give you my two cents here, like off the cuff, not having seen this before. It's a little different to me than the wrestling, just like at the onset of the wrestling and the baseball, because those are just fields essentially. And this is like facility with meeting spaces and training rooms and equipment and all that stuff. And I don't know how I feel about that. I've had like 20 minutes to think about it. So anyway, these are some concerns
I totally agree with you. I think this should be analyzed in committee instead of come to the full board. And this was not on the agenda 2 weeks ago. So we could also make a motion to, table this to operations committee if you wanted to. That's probably not going to change, how I feel about it, but
I make a motion to vote on it.
Okay.
What I want to know is
So I need a
from
second.
these guys
Second of this motion.
is this going to kill our,
Second.
is this going to kill our, do they think it's going to kill our referendum? Or what's going to be the support for the referendum for a fitness space for these other things by taking this off? So I'd like your 2 cents.
I would say in the proposal that we had HSR kind of help put together for us about the addition, that wrestling space was going to be a multi-purpose space. It wasn't going to be a devoted wrestling space. The hope was that they'd be able to have batting practice
It'd
and
be a multi-purpose space / the wrestling space back there. I don't believe it will. I believe it allows us to repurpose and actually get more out of it. Because now we can use that space for other classroom, adding an extra 2 classrooms or something like that. And I think it needs to focus on the CTE aspect of
Or
it.
could it potentially lower the price tag of the?
possible.
Yep, good. Yep. Could lower that price tag, which is obviously why we're looking at science rooms now and something. I guess from my standpoint, I don't believe it'll kill that. I still think you'll have the support of it because we are trying to do what's best for kids across the board. And you're right, this is a quicker fix than that.
I don't believe, I think it just allows us to repurpose that space, that extra space in there for additional classrooms, which we keep running out of, offices or some sort of other use, back there.
But do you think, I guess my question is like, do you feel it's gonna cost us support for a future referendum by not having the wrestling thing as part of it?
I think if I know we'll support it, and I'll advocate for referendum outside of it if it's not wrestling related, particularly if we have our own area. I know I'll be out there with picket signs and supporting this.
Yeah,
absolutely, sir.
I feel we possibly save money on the referendum, and we will support the referendum because we also have kids in baseball, football, all these other athletic and academic programs. They're not just in wrestling. So we want to continue to see the school, be successful in all phases.
And truth be told, if every wrestler I have ends up being a 3-sport athlete, I did my job. Obviously, I want them to be successful at wrestling. Obviously, I want them to go on and do whatever with wrestling. But the more we can get kids in extracurriculars, whatever it may be, regardless of sport or FBLA, FFA, it's going to have my vote, and whoever I tell should vote for it.
And I think Nick alluded to it a little bit earlier. There is an incredible, seems like an incredible amount of CTE trades, people in the wrestling community. I think that's probably where a lot of that support would come from to begin with anyway, is, hey, we need plumbers, we need this, we need this, we need this. And I think it just so happens that a lot of those same people we're talking about are in the trades. And I think that's where the support would come from initially. I think the fact that there's also a weight room would help, but I think just the need for more space to support our kids, and it maybe something growing faster than girls wrestling is the need for trades. I think that same group would provide that support. So if that wasn't there, I would be a little concerned about losing. I think that created, a block of votes that we would need to pass it. But I think you're talking about a strong overlap in the same block of votes that would support additional opportunities for trades that would create. I also think there's probably, just like other projects we have done, I think there's probably a net positive for the district here. I think this facility probably will end up bringing more students to Merrill Point. There's not a facility like this around, to my knowledge. So I think in terms of, what we're potentially outlaying versus adding more students to the district is a good thing. We just continue to grow facilities, but you're 100% right. This should have gone through.
The only other
Your
facility
committee
that I can think of, generally in our area, is an old space that's rented out and it's off-site from another school. So
I just want to ask Matt, in terms of like it being separated from the school, what your feeling is on that. My initial reaction was like, why not attach it to the school? But what's your feeling?
I think the big reason why not to attach it is cost. Because we had went 2020 and talked to the hospital about, and that was a weight room slash wrestling at the time, it was almost $2 million is the cost. I like that it's on.
Does it change if it gets attached to the school?
Yeah.
It may change like some of like down at the elementary, we had to do a sprinkler system in the entire building with that addition. The square footage may cause that to kick in here as well.
There's regulations. There's stuff that won't go in that building that would have to automatically if it gets attached.
If it gets attached, it would automatically probably add it to this building because of the square footage and size.
Mm.
I think having it on school grounds is a huge benefit.
Right.
Whether it's attached or detached, that to me doesn't, I guess, make a huge difference. But I think having it on school grounds where it's accessible for families, at a great location where there is parking, I think that makes the most sense.
Did you guys, we've talked about the grassy space just to the north of the gymnasium. Did you guys look at that spot at all, or is it
Years
big enough?
ago, years
Okay.
ago, there was talk about it.
Would not be big enough. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of hoops to jump through there too, I think.
Yeah.
That actually would.
Yeah, just thought I would ask. Yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion about the weight room being too small. Will this alleviate some of that?
Potentially, it depends what you do use. The current wrestling room.
If it
Once
needs to be
that's
the same
completed.
size for safety issues with the tornado shelter,
The way
then
it's
that probably needs to stay open.
It's currently set up, it would need to stay the way it is because we need to be able to get into both sets of doors in order to get kids in there and people in there fast enough for a storm shelter.
I think it creates a potential opportunity in the summer though, which is when you have a lot of kids in there because there would be a separate facility for.
And all of a sudden, there's flexibility for us to move those mats downstairs that would allow the weight room or anyone working out during the summer to use that facility more often. And without the possibility of damaging the mats with the weights, we could just move.
I know that this board wasn't the sitting board when the football stadium was approved, but I don't, and I'm trying to be objective because as you know, I have daughters who wrestle and so I feel a personal impact here, but I don't know how we can say no to this, but have as a board, and again, it wasn't us, but the sitting board have said yes to the football stadium. Because if the concern is parking, well, the football stadium certainly took more parking than this is going to take. The school mows and maintains the football stadium. We're not being asked to do that. Like the football stadium's used maybe, well, certainly less than a dozen times a year. I was going to say half a dozen, but maybe it's more than half a dozen. So like, how can we say, well, football is important enough that we as a school board would back this? And again, I realize it wasn't us, but board in general, but we wouldn't support the wrestling program the same way.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
I'm trying to be objective or like trying to say, okay, put my stuff aside. That to me would be a reason to.
Joni had a question earlier for you guys that I think it didn't necessarily get answered. That was with the girls program going, and I think what you're alluding to is that it's great that the girls can practice with the boys, so that this facility, bigger facility, would allow that. And then would it seem like, I didn't necessarily get a clear answer on that.
I would like to answer that then as a
Yeah.
girl wrestling mom. The girls are terrified of the thought of not wrestling with the boys, and that's where we're at right now, is that the girls will not wrestle with the boys next year, and they see themselves becoming less competitive when that happens, because a lot of these girls have been wrestling for a year or two. Not all of them, but most of them are fairly new wrestlers, and they get exposure to people who are far more advanced in their wrestling technique, and it helps them be better, and they push each other and they work harder when they're in a room with somebody who's working at that next level. So I think it's kind of that iron sharpens iron mentality, and the girls desperately do not want to have separate practices.
So I
That's okay.
I
speaking
understand
as a
that.
mom, not a board member.
I understand that perspective, and I didn't get a clear answer that this is going to enable that. So that's what I was looking to hear.
Yeah, it would enable that. It would enable the fact that the girls and the boys wrestling could continue to wrestle together and be practice partners if need be as
And then
well.
the middle school kids could wrestle down.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the conversations that I've had, that would become the middle school wrestling.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to piggyback off what Joni said too, I can only speak about one female wrestler that has graduated now from Mineral Point. She would almost prefer to practice with the men because it pushes her that much, and that's the reason she's able to compete at such a high level at Wartburg now.
So you said you could have 72
There would be
kids wrestling at the same time?
essentially, yes, with the ghost circles.
High school enrollment for boys and girls right now, what you're expecting for the fall?
That's a Kirk question.
So, with 5 graduating at this moment and anywhere from 5 to 10 coming in, I'd say 5 to 7 coming in next year from the current 8th grade, along with the girls growing, we're looking at anywhere with probably 35, maybe 40, as far as the high school level is concerned. Then you throw the middle school on top of that, which could also use that practice facility as well. You're looking at, I'd say 50 to 60 in that room at one time, potentially. And I think that I'm going high on that possibly. And then you talk about the youth aspect of that too, where, on occasion, we've had
50
numbers
kids in there,
50 as
And
far
I
as
think
numbers.
that, sorry, I don't mean
No,
to
you're
interrupt, but I think that, I mean, you kind of talked about the growth, Scotty talked about the growth. I think in a few short years, we could see equal to more numbers on the girls' side of things. I think it's an exciting opportunity for these girls, and I think they love the opportunity. And it certainly seems like they're really bought in, and a lot of girls are eager to try it out.
And I see that number growing more, considering the fact that this was the last year that girls could compete against boys. So now it's, from here on out in the WIA, it's only girls competing against girls, boys competing against boys. There's no longer where we have a boys duel and I have a girl filling in at 106 to wrestle a boy. That's gone away after this year.
Cool. So it sounds like it's big enough. That was what I was getting at, that you're not shortchanging
We can make
yourself.
it bigger. Lancaster as K-8 has 130 kids in their K-8 program, so they have to.
I think we should make it as big as you want it to be. Like, I'm not married to the parking lot.
All right, so. You wanna make a motion on that?
Volunteer parent coaches come in too, so it's not just the kids, there's a lot of.
There's a lot,
There's a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion and second. Needs
What was the
for,
motion to vote on it tonight or to approve it tonight?
What I stated at the time was to vote this evening. What I had intended was to, a vote to allow the wrestling club to move forward with the proposal.
you can amend your motion to say
I
that.
would like to amend my motion to say, I move that we allow the wrestling club to move forward with the proposal.
What does that mean?
With,
Like, do they have to come back to us with their designs, or gotta raise the money first, or if we're just giving them a green light on everything?
we're giving.
What about like pending the language of the final contract with the district or something like
Yes.
that?
Ending the language of the final contract with the district.
Well, we would have to vote on that again anyway.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm just searching for language that,
That's got a monetary number.
Yeah, I don't want it
attached
to be just like a full green light, but I don't want to stand in their way to start the conversations, because if they don't start now, they won't be able to build this summer.
How soon do you think you could come back to us and to an operations committee and say, here's our final proposal, here's the final numbers, this is what we want to do, and we want to start next week?
The tricky part there is to see how much funding we're gonna be able to get outside of a loan. That's gonna be the tricky part, because have you been working on that letter? So we're working on the letter to get that out. I mean, people don't respond necessarily. I mean, if we got answers back in a month from some of those, and we're gonna have.
I mean, we could do we could do worst case scenario. Right?
Yeah, we can do worst case scenario.
Figure out what it's gonna cost us completely. And then we start the letter process and we start to pick away at how much we have, and we're just continually subtracting until we come back in a month.
Is that the big number you're asking, is the number, the loan number? Okay.
well, yeah, the way I
Well,
see it for.
All of it, really. Like,
Yeah, well, the way I see it for tonight, in terms of what the school district needs to approve of, is number one, we approve the wrestling building in its current specifications to be built on the gravel lot at the proposed site. So we approve the site of the building. And then we also approve to enter a loan agreement with the wrestling club, where they assume full financial responsibility for the cost of the facility. That's, I think, the two things that we need from the board tonight, if that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
So the concept of the building site and the concept of the school district insured by the school district, you know, and then the concept of a financial agreement pending final language.
I'll moved. So amended to the previous,
Is that accurate?
whatever Eric just said.
Yes.
That's what you need?
Yes. So basically, I think what they need from the school is, can we use the site? And are you willing to enter into this agreement to get the loan, secure the loan on our behalf and we'll make the payment? I think that's really what they're looking for tonight, because if that's a yes from the school, then they can proceed down that road. You know, if it's 350 and they're going to get 50,000 in donations, then the loan's 300, or, you know, or like Colby said, worst case scenario, we know we're going to need 475,000 to complete this. Can we go to the bank, talk about what's it going to be for $475,000 note spread out over whatever years you think is acceptable, 10 years, 5 years, whatever. And then all of a sudden the donations come in. It's like that first payment could pay off 50,000 in principal, and now all of a sudden the note's a little bit smaller.
One last question. I promise this is my last question. Are we in a historic district?
No.
Okay. I don't know about tuck pointing. You would have to.
Look at the zoning, we're good. Talk to the city.
Or maybe Nate
we're
fixed
okay.
it that way so that they need to do all the masonry, get the masonry contract.
Deal.
You guys, and then just to be crystal clear, you understand that you need a guarantor.
Absolutely.
It's not the school district.
We'll have 3 of them, maybe 4.
Great.
And maybe consider one hoop for Kobe's hook shot. Just throwing that out there. Just keep that in mind.
You know about my hook shot.
Hook money, I know about it. So just consider that.
Investors?
Another meeting. Okay, so you're seconding her motion?
Yes.
To approve
Even
the
in my,
site
all the amendments?
Yes, the final wording I will also second.
Whatever that was.
Go ahead, Angie.
I've just written down preliminary approval of the site and the loan on behalf of the Mineral Point Wrestling Club. And I'll tweak it once I do the film, but that's the gist of it. Eisner,
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Can I just say real quick, I appreciate the support that you guys have given, not just the wrestling club, but all the support, all the extracurriculars, the school, all that for the whole time you guys have been up here. You guys have been great. You guys have been very approachable, and I think I speak on behalf of the 3 of us for thanking you guys for being approachable and knowing that if we have any questions, we're very comfortable coming to you guys and figuring stuff out and making it what's best for the program, the school, the kids, and all that. So thank you guys so much.
You bet.
Thank you for
Thank
saying
you,
that.
everybody.
If we need you guys to come back to a committee or something, we will let you know.
Call. Yep, absolutely.
Don't plan anything unless we let you know.
Well, this knows first thing.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I just gotta.
Moving forward, is that okay?
Go ahead.
Info
Yeah.
agenda?
I'll be right back.
All right. Info agenda, we lost Andy too.
I think it was bio break.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying something. I didn't want to just flat out ask you in case it would made you uncomfortable, but I appreciate your input as a wrestling parent of a girl, a young woman.
Well, I think if I don't want to sound sexist and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but if all the girls had to wrestle a boy like in the past, I don't know if our numbers would continue to grow the way they're potentially growing now. But you're right. If I can watch a better basketball player, a better baseball player, and pick their brain a little bit of how I can get better, I'm certainly going to get better because of those things. So being able to practice at the same time in the same location has dividends. And they could be partnered up with a boy, or because of the numbers of girls, they could just be partnered up with another girl, learning those techniques and working on those things. So I think that's a huge plus for all of our student athletes.
Keep it going.
Yep.
So
Keep going.
under the recruitment piece for board priorities, Wednesday, 4/16 several of us will be going to UW-Platteville. They have a rural schools job fair for education. So we'd be able to go down and talk about any positions we might have available, do a little bit of recruiting, talk up the Mineral Point School District. So that is on the radar. Angie Klein, Mr. Austin, myself, Brooke. Oh, sorry, just us three. We'll be going down to UW-Platteville for that rural education job fair. We'll be putting our name out there as far as recruiting. Retaining, we have a couple of resignations on there, so kind of not skip to that point, but it's unfortunate. We had somebody who was approached over the spring break with a job opportunity as they spent. I wasn't even looking for anything, and all of a sudden this came up, and it was like, wait, this might challenge me a little bit more. So they're stepping away as an instructional assistant role to take that. And then our school psychologist, such kind words of, I was not planning on leaving the district, really enjoyed the time here, but because of a job opportunity for her husband, kind of a dream job opportunity further north. And I think they're both from the Darlington area, but they're going to take advantage of this. And she regretfully tendered a letter of resignation effective at the end of the school year that she'll be acting on. But we have people that finish their careers here, people that leave us, begrudgingly leave us. So I think we're in a good place when it comes to our staff.
Social emotional safety.
We completed the YRBS. We are extremely hopeful that we'll see the middle school reports sometime prior to a year and a half later. We've completed the YRBS. The SEL team will be coming back to a very near board meeting to kind of report out how things have gone this year as far as they're concerned and some of the programmings and supports that they put in place. So,
as you said, the delayed middle school data finally came out randomly, right?
yes.
Okay, and
A
we
couple
have
of weeks ago.
5 days before we took the YRBS. I mean,
Okay.
it's like Danny and I barely had time to open it, and the kids were taking the new one like 3 days later or something.
It was crazy, and no explanation why. No explanation whatsoever.
Had submitted our AODA grant using the old data, because release stuff came out after the grant was due. So it was, I mean, yeah. I didn't ever hear anything about why it just magically showed up after a year and 10 months or whatever it's been.
Again, that's well beyond our control, but we did finally get that data.
So that data will be presented to us or shared with us next month. Okay, great. That's at the May meeting. Okay. Anything else on that priority, Mitch?
No.
No? Okay. School board governance.
I think Will had a great shout out of
Mhm.
ways that we could be better with better utilizing committee meetings or something like the
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about it offline, I think, but yeah, I think that this was a good discussion that could happen in committee for sure. Okay, and we got a couple of board business things that we'll find the summer retreat tonight and do stuff like that. Okay, spring school board election.
After the April 1st election, Harris and Christy Johnston retain their seats on the school board. They will take the oath of office on April 28th. We'll have a 2 agenda item.
Congrats,
Will
Will.
be the first one, and that will be an action item. We'll be bringing for the
3 years hence.
Or the hire, yeah,
hire a new staff person.
okay. Great, congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Find out if they is part of the forum to start the meeting.
I'll double check.
So we may have to post it as a swear in at 7 and then
Agenda, have the meeting
at
after
like
that.
7:15 or something.
Okay, yep, I will do that.
Or 6 and 6:15.
Budget comparison? Sorry, Mitch. Write your note there.
So as of March 24, you have in your board book, we had expended 60.6% of our budget, March of 24. If you look at March of 25, we are at 63.6. So we kind of maintain that 3%, a little been about 3% different. Again, I point to the fact that we know that we're doing some deficit spending, so it makes sense to me that we would be spending a little bit more in this budget cycle. We'd be a little bit further ahead than we are compared to last year. And then the last piece that's in there is kind of a food service. So as we move forward, we'll be able to kind of do a comparison year over year with food service as well, that is tracking. But about 3/4, 73% of the food service budget has been expanded. And we're about 3/4 of the way through the school year. So I think it's tracking fairly well as far as, our budget projection to budget actual.
Just to be clear, from operationally, we're tracking on budget, essentially.
I would say based on what our budget projection was, we're about 3/4 of the way through the school year, and 3/4 of the way through that budget seems to be tracking fairly reasonable.
Okay. Remind me again what deficit we approved in the budget. Was it 500,000?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we're on track to
We will be drastically better shape than that
by the end of this year.
by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, so we're tracking ahead of budget.
Are you talking the food service budget or the regular budget?
I was asking both questions, but first was operationally, are we checking ahead of budget?
Yes,
We are.
we are in much better shape than the projections.
Okay, that's good to know. And then food service?
Food service, we
on
feel like,
budget.
food service, we feel like based on the projections that we were using to put this budget together, that it's tracking very well. Again, we were taking some TAHR, projections, what do you spend on food? What did we spend on, commodities, those kinds of things, and so we kind of plugged those in, looked at maybe making some adjustments a little bit. But feel this budget is tracking well based on our projections. We'll know obviously at the end of the year, but there is a fund balance in Fund 50, the food service fund, that if we hit a deficit of some sort, we will be okay financially in food service because we have that surplus there.
Is that the 100K or whatever?
Yes.
I was gonna ask, do we have to spend that this year though?
No.
No? Okay.
They don't like you to have too large of a surplus in your food service, so that if there's things that we can spend it down on, equipment that we might need to update in the kitchen, those are things that we can use, but we do not have to spend it out, no. We can hold on to as much of that fund balance for food service as we can.
We're doing like an end of the year review of the food service at the next meeting. Is that next May
Yes.
meeting? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
May board meeting.
Any other questions or comments about the budget comparison?
Mitch, is there a potential, we've talked briefly about some of these things on email, and we don't need to go into great depth, but with the federal cuts, to food service for next year, that do we know any more about that? Like potentially eliminating money for low-income students for food, lunch?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you that I know more.
Okay.
We get about $140,000 from the federal government for our free and reduced lunch program. Basically, that money goes to the state releases the money through free and reduced. There's applications people have to fill out. I go to one meeting and I hear they believe that the money will be there for the upcoming year based on where the federal government's fiscal year is.
Right.
The next meeting I go to, sounding more like it's gonna be a block grant, that they're just gonna give the money to the state to divvy up. Well, that's kind of where our title monies come in. That's how it comes anyways. They give the title monies to the state and then the state just redirects it to the locals.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so I unfortunately, I don't have a better answer
Yeah.
at this point in time because I don't think anybody has.
140 is not a lot. I mean, it's something, but it's not.
Right. In total, if we lose our Title I, Title II, Title IV monies and the free and reduced, we're talking probably around a total of 400,000.
Right.
But the free and reduced that's the meal part.
Right.
That's 147.
Right.
Title I is for low income students and some of the help that we get there, but
Great. Great. Thank you.
yes, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll go to the district financial audit by Johnson and Black.
Nothing that was flagged other than the same thing that's flagged every year. You probably all could write down what that is if I gave you a blank piece of paper.
Segregation of duties.
Segregation of duties. How did you guess that, Mr. Skelding? Good call. Basically, that's what it is. And again, every school district our size, it's that same thing. All of our numbers, all of everything that they get tracks well. They asked us to make a couple of corrections. They were done. It was nothing financially shady by some of those. It was just maybe reclassifying something from this line item to a different line item. So no, and what it helped this year is that they have access to a lot of the things through Skyward, through a secure connection. So they're able to just even get started earlier. So I think it went much smoother this year than it has in previous years, or less time maybe is a better way to say it. So they give us a good recommendation.
Is this building fully depreciated?
We depreciated.
Yeah, like when I look at plant property.
It must be by now. It's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Figured, but I was curious.
Yeah, I would have to dig in some, to give you a specific, a special or not special, specific answer to that question. I don't know that I could say, confidently yes or no, but I would be in the same boat as Will, that, being 30 years old, that I would say yes.
96, right? Were there any surprises in this audit or any minor changes that you made, just budgetarily, ooh, we could do this differently, or we could make this change for the better? Anything you learned from the audit?
No, it's typical, they really look at a lot of things around. They might pull something and, hey, how do you track this? Do you have receipts for this? How did you expend this? Okay, everything is coded correctly. Most of the minor adjustments were, as I said, instead of being in a line 254, they wanted it in a line 354 or something of that nature.
Just formality.
Just formalities, yes.
Okay.
So no, a good audit report all around.
Did they contact you at all, Andy? Yeah. There should be some kind of,
They talked to me.
oh, they did. Good. Yeah, there should be some kind of contact, where they, because really it's the board's audit of the school district. So just to make sure that there's that, normally the auditors will come and do a presentation, right, to the board and say out loud themselves, we didn't find anything funny.
Every other year.
Every other year they come.
Oh, okay.
Practice here has been every other
All
year.
right.
Okay.
But as long as they contacted somebody on the board, that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
That was back in the fall when they did it.
Good enough for me.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the financial audit? Okay, we'll go to the review the resource created by the cell phone ad hoc committee.
Use for 70%, 100%.
The
More accurate.
ad hoc committee, part of the process we went through was to conduct a survey of our high school students, our middle school students, and our fourth and fifth grade students. So we got data specific to the Mineral Point kids. And we kind of talked through a lot of things. Are people eliminating them? What's the state legislature doing? And the state legislature still talks about potentially passing a law that requires the school board to come up with a policy that talks about, unfortunately, not cell phones. Because their law that they're proposing deals with the ability to communicate wirelessly, including laptops, Chromebooks, cell phones. So what they're talking about is potentially saying, oh, you have a one-to-one and you have student email accounts, you might have to come up with a policy that limits that connectivity. So that while they refer to it a lot as cell phones, it isn't being crafted that way in the legislature. And it would still give the school board the final call on what to do about it. So we've had several meetings, and one of the things that kept coming back up again is the desire to provide some kind of education for our families. So through conversations, some crafting, some wizardry, they put together kind of a monthly flyer that we're talking about potentially sending out to our families called Point of Focus. And it's kind of like, hey, did you know, a little snippet, did you know? It shares kind of what our students are saying. So again, this information isn't about some national survey. This isn't about some kid in Baltimore or San Diego. This is about Mineral Point students. So that survey is giving us data to report back to the parents with the hopes that, hey, there's going to be a conversation at home. Are you on your cell phone more than 4 hours a day? Are you one of the 30% of the fourth and fifth graders that say you're on your cell phone more than 4 hours a day? Really? Do you think that's how, right? And I think that was part of what the school board was hoping would happen is, can we provide some talking points? Can we provide some education for our parents and not say, you should do this or thou shalt not do that? So we really tried to tie in some of the data that we were able to collect through the committee. This one talks about cell phones. You can play the clip. And it talks about a classroom teacher who did a little experiment about the number of times somebody got hit up on their cell phone during class. So she's like, the cell phones are on, take them out, put them down on your desk. And then every time you get a text message, an Instagram hit, whatever, make a tally mark. And at the end of the class, they tallied up how many times there was that disruption. And the voiceover kind of talks about, you can see while not necessarily reading the information, the vibration, the ding, the beep, the light flash, hold somebody's attention away from what was going on at the front of the classroom because the teacher was providing the instruction. But I was like, I got to see what's on my cell phone. I got to see, who is it? What's going on? What am I missing? So it was a pretty interesting little piece that was conducted in a school classroom that is embedded in this kind of little 2-page electronic flyer. And then try to provide some family resources, so if you're having these conversations at home, hey, how do we help with this? How do we help with that? What's some way that I can at home become a little bit more educated on what's going on? So next month is kind of an SEL month. So they were wanting to maybe wrap more of that theme into the next month's flyer. So with your permission, this still needs to have some edits done to it to make it a little bit more user-friendly, so to speak. We have to be able to, we're having to look at more things that, can we change the language easy enough? So if somebody gets this and in a Spanish speaking home, can this be translated? Can we do that easily enough? If I have some vision impairments, can I make some changes? So we need to make sure we take those things into consideration before we push it out. But it's just kind of a little, if you were sending this home in the mail, it would be a front and back little flyer. Off it goes. This one has the video embedded into it, so it'll be pushed out, through the school communication emails set up through Joelle. But just, some resources around information we've been talking about, the impact of social media, the impact of cell phones, and how many hours, how many messages, those kinds of things. We gathered that information. How many social media hits do you get, from 11 o'clock at night to 5 a.m. When do you go to sleep? What's keeping you, those kinds of things. So we have information that we can continue to share out from this group to help inform our parents and give them some resources.
So, obviously this ad hoc committee will come to an end at some point. So, what entity will be producing and putting out these monthly newsletters, or is this a limited series?
Danny Robb and Chris McCoy combined on this. So they're both district employees, our school social worker and our library media specialist in this, so I think we have enough topics that this could go on for several months, and I think we would probably want to save them. And then obviously a lot of these things aren't going to go away. Maybe we need to look at doing another survey in a couple of years just to kind of refresh that information. But I think these are things that we could continue to recycle and push out every so often.
We handle through the media teaching position.
That would be really good. Where will all these documents live?
Online.
On our website?
Yeah, I think we could house them on our website.
I think the committee was, and stop me if I'm wrong, was charged with survey, look at the research and provide some recommendations to the board on terms of our own policy, right? So this is one thing, but I guess, I'm curious to know if you had recommendations about changing our policy around cell phones and smart watches and all this stuff.
At this point in time, there is not a recommendation coming out of the committee to make any changes. Christy, you were.
I will say this. I honestly, as the board rep, I've only been to one of these meetings because they just didn't jive with my schedule. The impression that I got, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but the principals that were at the school, they don't see an issue with cell phones being distracting during the school day, typically speaking, in our buildings. They said they don't have to take them away. They don't have at the time there was maybe
Up to
one.
5 on the year.
Up to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we first met, it was 1 at the time. So it wasn't a huge issue. And I totally agree, we shouldn't be telling parents how they should be disciplining their children and setting up rules around social media use at home. But what a lot of parents were talking about, or a lot of people at the table were talking about, is that a lot of parents aren't educated about what all of this is or what it's doing because it wasn't around when we were younger. And so educating parents became the focus on, here's what is happening. Here is some of our local data. Here are some resources that you could look at, and then here's some talking points. So I think that I don't feel like our policy needs to be updated at this time, because I think that the policy that we have for social media and cell phone use is pretty strong to begin with.
It is. I can tell you, and especially at the lower levels, there doesn't need to be any change. At the high school, we will continue to tweak, because as AI grows and all these things and new technology evolves, we will continue to tweak that. I actually, they just came in, talked to several teachers about using the quote unquote cell phone towers, or they're like a shoe rack for the back of a door for attendance. And I'm going to have some people try that out over the next couple of weeks, because Well, they like to have it. If they have it up there and they at least know where it's at, it's there and it's out of there. They don't have to worry about it buzzing or so on. So we're gonna actually try that with 6 or 8 people over the next couple of weeks, just to see how that works. And does it provide less of a distraction? Does it allow you to set it away? Because that's part of it at the high school level. They're very attached to them. But we don't generally have a ton of issues with it.
A couple of school districts have pouches. You know, you come, here's your pouch for the year. You put your cell phone in, and when you close it, it's shut. You can't get it open. On your way out, there's a magnet that you put up, and then it releases the magnet and allows you to get your phone out.
Every day.
Every day. Couple of school districts are using that.
Most of those put wireless headphones, smartwatches, and your phone goes.
Right, so I mean, we obviously don't have the most punitive cell phone policy or most draconian, but we are telling kids what to do with their cell phones. I mean, they can't have them in the classroom.
During the school day, yes.
Right, and that's the whole point. I mean, so I think the question, to Will's point, is we have a certain cell phone policy. And after studying the research and trends of use at school and academic trends.
Cell phones are causing to the human brain.
Right, all of that. Do we feel like our current cell phone policy is not only the best fit for this school district, but also the most appropriate for our kids' mental health and for our kids' academic performance? And I don't know what the answer to that
I
is.
would say for right now, with what we know and what's happening in our school district right now, yes.
Yeah, great.
And if we want to lead by example, there's 4 cell phones out on the table right now.
Checking mine all night for track results.
So I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm just saying,
Developed brains, we're all over 25. So it's different. But man, I appreciate that you're trying that. And I think that's great.
That is really where you see a lot. Obviously, I guess 95% of kids that have to go back, but most kids have a smartwatch or a phone at that point. It is a distraction. I think our staff and our students actually do pretty well with it, from my honest opinion, because I know about other schools. But I think we need to continue to tweak it at the high school level. I would say definitely not changing anything at the middle school or elementary. Right? It's no. And I think that needs to be there. Principal on the OSOC committee that I was on, or that I'm on here, I think he said it best too. He goes, look, they're a big school. They do they're called yonder pouches. They do those for freshmen. This is the first year they've done it for freshmen. Next year, they're going to do it for sophomores. And then he said, and then we have to get them ready for the world that they're going to face, because they are going to have access to that all the time. We need to teach them to be able to, I got to set this aside, focus, and just teach them those skills too. And I think that's great. But I think we're going to continue to explore what's the best for our kids, especially at the high school level, because that is where they're more of a distraction.
So what's the future for this committee, or are you guys done meeting, you think?
No, we have a meeting set up for
week and a half, 23rd, I think.
To kind of review this, get this put out to people. I think we want to continue to meet here a couple more times to see how this information is getting received, how we can tweak it, because there did seem to be a big want for information. Like, how does it affect kids? Because I don't think a lot of people sit down and read those articles, but I think if they have it pushed to them by the school, I think they'll actually take a look at it. And I think it's got great talking points on it too. I think we want to continue to look and see what those are and kind of dig down what those topics should be. Because I do think this part should be an ongoing.
Yeah, I think let's get feedback from this and let that inform where we go.
Yeah.
I think this is great.
Yeah. And I cannot take any credit for this. People doing awesome work, so fantastic.
I'm surprised by how low our numbers are.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be a lot higher, especially for 6th through 8th grade.
Probably underreported.
So they might be a long report, but
Yeah, if we
it's good to
could,
see.
if we could data mine their actual usage, I would guess it would be disturbingly higher. But even these numbers are unsettling. 4 hours a day.
And another
You spend 8 hours in school.
book The Anxious Generation came up several times in conversation, and we're looking at doing a book read for the staff and trying to bring in a speaker from this, which kind of talks about that need of, I got to have X number of likes. You can tell I'm really big into social media because I don't know what the app is, but you have to have a streak of so many days or whatever, and kids that they're becoming obsessed simply by having to have this. What is it, Matt?
Let's Snapchat that one.
Thank you.
I heard that
Are
one's
you
really good.
ordering?
I've not read it, but several of the people on the committee have.
Somebody here in town just contacted Isa about a book club for
They
this
wrote-
book.
Dodgeball's doing a book club.
Some money to provide some books
Yeah,
and
I don't know
stuff.
if it was Christy Cole or
Um,
who reached
maybe.
out to her.
And the speaker, Miss McCoy, actually heard at a different, at WEMTA this
It's-
year. So she's got it lined up. This is that back to school night.
Gotten feedback on it.
So we're gonna try and line up our back to school nights so that
It's
this is
so
right after for families.
This book's
I know another couple,
Take
some
some
other
leaves, some.
communities are doing this book
Yeah.
study as well.
And I just want to very briefly say I was in Brazil the last 3 weeks. I toured 2 schools while I was there just for fun. The person that was renting our house to us is the librarian at a school. In Brazil, the country of Brazil instituted a no cell phone policy in any school, public or private, in the country. So there's no cell phones at any age level for any kids. And so that's interesting. And the teacher said she loves it. You know, they're just gone and it's not a distraction anymore. And kids actually talk to each other at lunch and they in the hallways, and like getting rid of it was just the best thing she said that ever happened. The other thing I'll mention briefly is that, you know, the schools are very low tech, but a lot of that's an economic thing. Although we toured a private school, it had tuition and stuff, but they're low tech on purpose. And it was really cool, honestly, to step back to chalkboards and all that and be in a space that felt pretty familiar to me. And they're doing it, right? Like their kids are learning. They seem very bright. I met some of the kids. There was one school was English, Portuguese bilingual. And so I was impressed and I was like, okay, it can be done. Like you can get rid of smart boards and cell phones and all this and probably save a lot of money. And kids seem really healthy. And you know, a lot of these issues around bullying and all of that, it's right there. So it was food for thought. I'll only bring it up one time.
Any more comments about this issue? Questions?
I'd be looking for your approval to take this step then to the ad hoc committee, that you approve sending out this communication and more like it as we move forward.
Make a motion.
If this is not on the action agenda.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Just send it then.
Yeah, just
Your committee,
I-
send it.
Possible feedback would be, if you're sending it electronically, could it be 3 pages and each of these slides be half a page? Because my old lady eyes are like,
can't see it on my phone.
I'll take a picture and zoom in.
Well, my first thought is nobody's gonna read.
The little part. Yeah,
I did.
give them a
First-
chance.
The
Well,
first part,
we'll let Joelle take a whack at it, right?
Yeah,
that last part is a lot.
it is very small.
The different grade level parts, is that what you're talking about?
These 4 boxes down here.
Sure, Joelle can make it look awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will, like I said, there will be some additional editing for some of the adaptability and allow that to move forward.
Okay, next is first reading of a few policies.
We have 3 policies, 133, filling a board vacancy. I received an update. Your current policy said you could do, with approval of the board, you would do a written signed ballot. There's been some pushback in the state level about that. And now policy requires you to have a voice or roll call vote for someone to be on if you're going to fill a board vacancy. You can abstain, which would, in the past, you could say, you could write in none of the above. That counted as a vote. Abstaining would be the same thing, basically. as none of the above and would count as a vote. So that's the biggest change in filling board vacancies. Policy 681.1, capitalization depreciation. This is a federal requirement. Our old policy had $2,500 in it. Federal policy requires 10,000. So we simply made changes to the dollar amounts to 10,000. This did come from the auditors saying that we need to get that up to speed. And then one of the policies that came out of our administrative review of the food service program is policy or rule 763. They wanted to make sure that our rule met our practice, and your rule, I hate to tell you this, we weren't following it because it only allowed somebody to become -10 and then they were cut off. It would be graham crackers or this or that. We never cut anybody off from eating. We made sure that we provided a meal. So that the DPI lunch ladies basically said, well, whatever you're doing, just make sure you put that in your rule. So that's basically what we've done. We've just taken out the $10 cutoff, taken out the graham crackers. It's talking with Kimmy, it's probably economically cheaper to provide them the meal than it would even be to make them a peanut butter or a cheese sandwich or whatever the case may be for the time and food products to do that. So we adjusted that rule.
I can't remember what we did in the handbook when we were reviewing those, but do you remember, like, I think, did we take the language, because we addressed this, because this is part of the handbook too.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll just need to make sure they're consistent, I guess.
So when I went to update this, the number 3 was already marked off.
Okay.
So that's in response to the handbook.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But I had to change the, in line number 2, up $10.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Any other comments or questions about these 3 policy changes? Or the changes to these 3 policies? Okay. We'll move on to action agenda. We've already addressed number 1 with the wrestling club. We'll go to boys and girls track co-op approval.
Co-op sports need to be approved on an every other year basis other than gymnastics. Gymnastics is an every year approval. So this year it's the boys and girls track co-op with Dodgeville. We would need a motion to approve this. I have contracts here that can be signed and then we'll send them over to Dodgeville and they will approve them and send them off to the WIAA, but it allows our students to continue participating in this co-op.
I'll move to approve the co-op for boys and girls track.
Second.
Any discussion? Bush, Harris? All right, go ahead, Angie.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Heisler.
Yes. Yes.
Felday,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. CISA 3 contract?
So in the board book, you have a copy of the CISA 3 contract. There is a large reduction in the contract from the current school year 24-25 to the 25-26 school year. And the biggest reduction is purchasing the services of a speech and language teacher through a third-party vendor. CISA 3 helped arrange that for us. We no longer need those services. We hope to be bringing a name forward on April 28th of a candidate that we will hire as our own employee. We tried to make that approach last year, couldn't do it, went through CISA. We talked about this at a previous board meeting about hiring our own, conducted interviews and a recommendation. So hopefully all goes well. So that reduces the CISA 3 contract. Also a reduction. CISA 3 will be providing our food service employee, food service director again next year. And CISA 3 had a reduction in their insurance costs. So there's a reduction to the school district because of that. They passed that savings on to the school district. So it's about a $3,000, a little over $3,000 savings there. So the contract in total is $139,027. I recommend approving this. These are services that the school district takes advantage of. And as I shared in the past, sometimes they're not things that we can afford to hire because we only might need them for 2 hours in a given week. And we would never be able to hire our own employee but it's something that is spread across the CISA districts. It's affordable for us.
This reads a little bit like a menu and there's things we don't select. Do you evaluate every year if those services would be value add to us?
Yes, as an admin group, we talk about the CISA 3 contract. Are there things that we don't need anymore? Are there things that we need to increase? So we have that conversation on a yearly basis.
Take a motion to approve the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for CISA 3.
I'll second.
Mr. Eisner. So this is a savings from last year of over $106,000. I'm assuming even with hiring our speech and language person, comprehensive salary benefits, we're still going to be a net savings on this CISA contract?
I will defer to our pupil services director, but I would say yes. We're not hiring, somebody's not at the top end of our master's schedule. The candidate that the position offer is going out to, kind of negotiating where they fit, but they're not the top end of the scale. So I would say that while not being $100,000 savings, there will be a savings to the school district over last year.
Okay, great. Any other discussion?
Johnson,
Yes.
Gilding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
So I'll have the CISA contract and the co-op contract. So we'll need your signature and my signature after the meeting.
Okay. Summer Kids Club.
My apologies that this did not come to a committee. We're trying to get the summer school information out and the summer kids club information out at the same time. You have in your board packet the proposed language changes. We had a summer kids club handbook a year ago. So what you have in your handbook, in your board packet, should be highlighted in yellow. It's just a couple of changes to what was in place last year. Some of it is simply just, hey, here's where pickup and drop off should be. So, nothing major procedurally. And basically something about hours of operation, where the only change is really to the handbook from last year to this year. So I've authorized or asked that you approve this with revisions. We did push this out as a preliminary handbook. So when we sent out summer school stuff, we also sent this out to parents to notify them that this is the preliminary handbook and changes may come out of the meeting or not, and may be approved as is.
Do we know how many kids have signed up so far?
My last number was 22 at this point.
So other than the director, how many staff will be there?
We will need 2 staff in a 1-to-1 scenario. And I know that there is at least one other employee that is willing to come back and work this summer.
So there's the director, 2 staff are going to be in a 1-to-1 situation, and then 1 extra.
And I don't know that I don't know the days, some students last year were Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not we'll have all of those staff members there every given day, I don't have that information yet. We'll need more enrollment to get a better feel for that. I think last year we had 40 some odd students registered for the summer kids club. But on any given day, there was only, I think the most was maybe 28 on one day of the week. Yep, it's just, not every student needed it 5 days a week, all day long. So we'll need to get that ironed out as we move forward.
I'm not sure that like what you guys are talking about, like the budget for the summer program. I'm not sure that needs full board approval. Probably wouldn't hurt, but I think at a minimum, we probably should get some kind of just review of like an expanded version of what you were just saying. Like, okay, this is our plan for the summer kids club. We're going to have this many staff. We're anticipating this many kids at this cost, income's predicted to be this much, expenses predicted to be this much. Just so we know we're going to be on budget or not lose money by end of the summer.
And then it's cost neutral.
Exactly, something like that. Just be like, this is how we're planning it out so that we don't lose money on this.
All enrollment driven.
Yeah.
So we need to get kind of some finalized enrollment numbers before we can move forward with that, but absolutely.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying we needed it now. I'm just saying at some point, it'd be good to just get that like heads up before the summer starts. My last question about the handbook is, under the club registration form, it says this section will need some work. I'd prefer to do it in a Google form. So I'm assuming that's just like the formatting of it rather than like changing the nuts and bolts of actual
And Joelle
registration.
is working with Mo already on that.
Sure. Okay.
So that
Just to
she's
make
already,
it more user friendly.
that's how I knew there was 22 students because there's an online form to fill out.
It was very easy to fill out
Great.
online. Yeah,
Great.
really easy.
So I don't believe this portion from that point on, what you just said,
Yeah.
was in the preliminary
Yeah.
handbook, just for a clean
Yeah.
copy. We just included this first information.
Okay.
Is there any more information about the potential St. Mary's?
Been asking questions, haven't heard anything else.
Moving forward is what I've gotten back when I've asked. But it's a lengthy process, so.
Sure, the building needs a little work too.
I'll take a motion to approve this summer kids club handbook as revised, presented.
Move.
Any other discussion, questions? Comments?
Are we planning on all of the kids club students attending summer school again?
Yes.
That was a requirement that was
Yes.
stated.
Yeah.
When I say moving forward, I mean like the next steps keep being
Yeah.
taken, but
They're not only quits.
Anything else on this handbook? Okay, Angie.
Harris,
Yes.
Kaiser,
yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is presentation to approve changes to the media teaching position and the high school English position.
Are these updated versions?
It might be similar to what's in your
Should be in your
thing.
board look packet.
Yeah,
Be a
it is.
comma
I'm looking
that's
at it.
different.
You added a comma?
Well, the computer told me I was missing a comma when I was looking at it before I printed it today. I'm like, I don't feel like that was there the other day, but okay. So looking at this, looking at how we currently have things structured right now, we have a position that is a 0.5 position for English, 0.5 for media. That's how we've structured it based on needs and how we've continued to grow within the media and offering our English positions. My ask to you guys is to increase both positions to a full-time position. So it'd be a full-time English position, full-time media position. Person currently in that at this point would transition into that media, looking for an English teacher. But some of the big things that with this change would benefits from this change. Would allow our middle school teachers to really focus back on the middle school. So currently they're both teaching at least a section of English 9 in semester 1 and a section of film and lit during semester 2. So they are teaching their middle school classes and they're teaching a high school section to meet the needs that we have. It would provide access throughout the day for our library media specialists. So currently, right now, our library media specialist teaches our intro to media class. So that would go away, and also teaches a section of that film and lit. So it would actually open more time for them to get into the classrooms, expand book talks, provide more technology tools, which is our library media specialist is phenomenal. It's Chris McCoy. She does a great job, but this would give her a little bit more of that time back to do those things when she's not tied up into a classroom where she's got to be there each day during 6 hour or whenever it is. It also would reduce the number of overloads at both levels. So currently right now, like both, we have multiple middle school teachers on overload. We have some high school teachers on overload. By adding the English position, we could actually restructure some things where we wouldn't have all those people on overloads. And it would actually allow us to provide some potential other offerings. One big one that we're looking at, we're trying to work with UW Oshkosh on this right now, is speech. We have a lot of kids that want to take speech. It's a little difficult to get it through Southwest Tech to get it transcripted because you have to have a communications degree. Or you have to have 18 credits in speech or something along those lines. So they haven't really bent, but Oshkosh did it. I just got an email from them today. They're going to send the stuff that we currently have for our CAP class for English over to their communication side. And we just have to fill out a potential application to see if we can green light that a little faster.
Speech in this context, like public speaking?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yep. A lot of kids take it because you have to take it at any level. So they take it through Southwest Tech for us. It'd be really cool to do it here. And offer that in here.
That'd be great.
Well, actually, what's up?
Would that potentially be like a CAP class where you
It'd be
have
a
to
CAP
test at
class.
the end as opposed to an accredited? I don't remember exactly. the difference.
Transcripted classes, you're getting the class or you're getting the credit through like Southwest Tech, like accounting is transcripted right now.
Mhm.
So you get the credit there and you get the credit here.
Okay.
The CAP classes are kind of similar. You get the credit through UW Oshkosh, but you would also get the credit here. It's just a different system, tech school versus, yeah. So ideally we'd be able to add that. We used to offer American Lit recently. I guess this year is the first year we haven't offered it. It was more of a numbers thing. Wasn't a lot of kids that signed up for it, so that's why we didn't offer it this year. But some other options, World Lit, Research Capstone, just looking at some schools, bigger schools that have some more options. There's a lot of cool options out there that we could kind of incorporate in here into that English structure by having the space and the time during the day to do so. We'd continue to offer that structure of the English language class. That's focused on that grammars and English skills. It's really grammar heavy. That is what the ACT test is about. It does impact that Measures That Matters report card score. And then by increasing this, we actually increase our CTE offerings by offering more media options. Mr. Carey will be the first one to tell you, that's right in my realm. It's CTE, it's tech ed. He goes, I don't have the time to do it. So I love that we're able to provide those things. Some examples there, we've talked about adding more media technology, photography, adding back in the graphic design, some elements of that into it, potentially offering an elective at the middle school level. We're trying to provide them with more options. So it's not on, oh, you're doing this one and you're doing this one and you're doing this one and this one. This year, 6th grade had options, 8th grade had options, the way that the schedule worked. 7th grade did not. Next year, with the potential of a new science teacher, probably not going to be able to speak Spanish like Mr. Van Galen. Thankfully, he did all of that. There'll be some restructuring, so we'll hopefully have some options for the 7th grade, but this will allow us to add a few more options, either at 7th grade, 8th grade, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, just a quick question. And when you're talking about overload and teachers, excuse me, what does that mean?
Yes, sorry. I didn't skip that. So a typical teaching load is 6 classes one semester and 7 classes the next semester. If you're on overload, you're teaching 7 classes both semesters. We typically pay, I think it's about $2,500. It is on right there underneath the reduced overloads. Sorry, I skipped over.
No, that's all right.
What's the why behind that?
What's the why behind what?
That we have, you just said we have a lot of middle school or high school teachers on overload. Why?
Numbers of students in classes.
First demand, trying to offer enough sections
Yep.
for students to get into subjects, classes.
Typically, a high school class will run anywhere between 15 to 22, 23 kids in a class, and that's getting pretty tight. We have some that push that 25. most of your grade levels are above, are right around that 60. So we can't put 30 and 30. So we have to have 3 sections of most things.
How many, I would like to know, and you don't need to answer this now, but at a later date, how many of our staff are actually on overload?
Okay.
And the pros and cons of that. Not right now, but later on down the road. Okay, keep going.
Well, I would like to know how many staff overloads are we eliminating by creating this position? More specifically. So how many staff would no longer be on overload?
I believe it would eliminate 4 overloads.
Okay.
The way it's
At both middle or high school or combined?
combined.
Okay.
Combined. I believe we should be able to eliminate 4 overloads if we add this.
I think if I recall from committee correctly, there would be a 5th overload with Mr. Z, but you chose not to offer that.
This year, we did
Because
not
it was
offer
a
that
first
because,
year?
yes, you are correct.
So 5.
So, yes.
It'd be,
If we didn't do this.
if
next
we
year, there'd
didn't
be
do
5
this, there would be
overloads.
5
There could
overloads.
be.
But yeah, I should say.
Could be. Again,
Yeah, but
it's a
that's-
numbers thing. It's a scheduling thing.
So with this, with freeing up the middle school teachers,
Mm-hmm.
is the main, okay, so I see one benefit to the middle school being possibly a media elective.
Yep.
Will the current middle school staff be able to offer any more classes to the middle school, or is it just simply they'll no longer be on overload? You know what I mean?
There is potential, I would say there's potential to offer maybe an elective here or there, only because there's going to be more time over there, like it only maybe a semester, and then it's only 6 and 7 again. I can also tell you that my middle school teachers that are teaching the film and lit class right now probably don't want to give that class up, but but maybe that means they're not maybe they could still teach that, but they're not teaching Lewis 9, so they're still not on overload. But they really love that film and lit class, I can tell you that. So
Overloads include the study halls that they're charged with.
no. And right now we don't have any middle school staff that have the study halls. Just the high school staff have. There's a couple that have a study hall to help out with that. Sue Gallen actually has taken over all of our middle school study halls so that they're all in here. So we have a couple high school study halls that are with other teachers and stuff.
Is that a teacher's prep time or
What's that?
if a teacher normally teaches 6 classes one semester, 7 the other, and then they're assigned with a study hall, is that in addition to the 6 and 7? Is it part of their prep time?
Can be, it varies.
Okay.
It varies really on the numbers of what they're offering and stuff. I think I have 2 people that have a full year study hall with high school kids. And then the other ones are kind of spread out. And it just, the great thing about our staff is they're always willing to pitch in and help.
We
So
ask for a lot of help when
we do.
there's staff that's gone, instead of getting a sub, just look for coverage hours.
Yeah.
So if the master schedule and see who's available 4th hour and ask if they can cover that.
It seems.
Yeah.
I like the idea of potential electives, but it seems with some of the trends we've seen in scoring and in learning with the new curriculum at the elementary school, with the addition of the additional reading specialist, like potentially creating 2 hours a day where our middle school teachers may be available to students in need.
Yes, it could
Might be
provide more
a strong
times for them.
opportunity as well. I mean, I don't mind the idea of an elective, but if you now have 25% of the school day open to students who have
Remediation.
Yeah, providing a space. where
I
they
think
can-
that's where we could create some value with that position.
Yeah, if there was
Well,
something like math strats, but it
And the
was,
best part, you're right, that does open up that. Every kid would be accessible during that 6 period time for 7th and 8th grade because they are either in 7th, 8th grades, either in Phi-Ed or in an elective that hour. So we have that, so they have a common planning time. So you could pull kids, say, hey, I need help. You need help today. We're going to pull you out of Phi-Ed and we're going to be down here, but then you're not losing your only prep of the day. Is that a lot of time that's their only prep right now. So that is a yes. Some of the media numbers, and I know there's a lot to this and some of the stuff the media is responsible for this year.
As of right now, there's 180 requests. The last year there were 150 requests. This year there's 180 requests for some sort of media. If we were to move forward with this, we would actually put something back out to the students because we would add some options for the media and just to get some more guidance as I start to build the schedule here. As kids start asking me already, well, do you have your schedule done yet? Oh, we're just starting that process, but it would allow us to put some information back out to students, potentially create a few things, and then we can really start that scheduling process here. Other questions we have? I think it opens up opportunities for kids. If you want my honest opinion, that's what we're here for. But it's just great to offer those opportunities, and we've seen tremendous growth in that program, and tremendous growth in every program. If you want my honest opinion, we had a lot of recognitions tonight and stuff, and it's been fantastic. If we can continue to offer more opportunities, I'm all for it.
What's the budget implications on this?
I would say if you look worst case scenario, somebody middle of the master's column, family insurance, I would just say roughly $80,000. If that's where that new hire came in.
But our media teacher would not be a new hire. You're saying that we would just move someone into that spot who's already been doing this.
Yes.
So
The ask is really for one
full-time
teacher.
is what it's asked.
For what it's worth, we'd save 10 grand on overload staff expense.
Mhm.
But I'm all for investing in the time for more middle school kids to have more reading and math help if need be.
Sure.
I'm going to assume that a lot of this came from the current staff. Like the benefits of making this change.
A lot of this was just yes. I think a lot of it was talked about at the committee meeting the other night,
Okay.
and between myself and Miss McGraw, and just kind of talking through some things and talking over with what it could benefit. I think the benefits are there.
Yep. And then you said you're gonna put the media thing back out to the students to get their input on what they would like to see.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'd add a few things for offering so we can reopen up their scheduling. Typically at this point, I've ran about 150 schedules. I have not yet because I wanted to see where this would go.
Yeah.
Before I started moving all the masterpieces around. But we're kind of looking at some restructuring of the middle school, how they're laid out, making sure reading's still in the morning and trying to focus on those things. So I've been working on the middle school schedule right now, and then we'll start piecing in the high school schedule.
One question. Do any media classes meet requirements to graduate under any category?
They're all electives. It'd be a lot like tech ed, it'd be all elective. Mhm. Good question. Be a lot like your tech ed. Yeah. If we allowed the media journalism to be we've talked before about having intro to media being an English class, we've never changed. But there'd be some potential there.
I'm not saying you should, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, that's a good question.
And then we did talk about, just budgetary, we did talk about reviewing, just for little interest, reviewing there are two additives for media. We will review those, just to make sure they're not redundant with this. It seemed like maybe they were not, but we would review to verify we're not now paying somebody twice for doing the same thing.
On the additive contracts?
Yeah, because we created a couple of media additive. So just reviewing the redundancy of those to make sure.
When do we approve the additive contracts? Next month? Or have we already approved them?
You approved the increase for that base dollar amount.
Yeah.
We would look at that either as a May or June approval.
Of all the contracts or this specific one?
Of all the
All the
additives.
additive contracts. Yeah, yes. Okay.
It's, been done before they walk up for it.
Oh, May. So we're gonna May. Sounds good. It is.
Yeah, I don't know how to frame this question, so I'm just gonna kind of stumble through it, but wasn't able to attend the meeting when you
Yeah.
guys talked about this, so I apologize, but,
It's all good.
in the media, while I was on the school tour that one night for
Yeah.
the Iowa County
Yep.
thing, which was really cool, and I'll admit that if this was around when I was in high school, I would have eaten this all up and
Yep.
wanted to do it all. And I find, it's a fun and attractive thing to do, right? And now as an adult, I'm thinking about I'm maybe more attracted to American Lit and like those kinds of classes and thinking, God, why didn't I read more when I was in high school? So to me, it's evident how, and maybe in a core course like English or whatever, we're learning skills to be, good adults to think critically, and relate with other humans and all of that. A lot of this is pretty technical. These are technical things like graphic design and mixing music and all of that. So what is the philosophy, not only on this, I can take a step back in terms of tech ed and these other elective courses in terms of how do you as a principal sort of guide the teachers, or what's the teacher's philosophy behind incorporating these things about helping people prepare for.
So if you remember at the Iowa County,
all of that.
we talked about the durable skills instead of calling them the soft skills now.
Right.
We call them the durable skills, the skills that we need students to have, or people in general to have as they go out into the world. I think a lot of that has to focus on that. It's hey, you have to have this done. It's the timeliness. It's we got to work together in teams. I think you see a lot of that in these things in tech ed and stuff and all that. So I think a lot of it, when they talk about it, it's the focus on here are the durable skills. Here are what we need you to do. We're going to use this. I always did this with chemistry. When I taught chemistry, kids go, I don't like chemistry. I said, it's okay. I love it, but that's okay. By the end of this year, though, you can walk out the door and not probably know that much about chemistry, but you better know how to problem solve. You better know how to do this. We're going to use chemistry to learn how to do that, but you better know how to do these skills. And there was 13 of them that we had for the science department at that time. I would say it's the same sort of thing with these sorts of CTE things. Here are the durable skills. Mr. Carey is going to use Wood's class to teach you the durable skill, and you might gain some skills on woodworking. But those durable skills are the big push.
And is this when, so if we create some new classes here, like a speech class or whatever will come out of this, is that something, how does that get reviewed? For the content and that those durable skills are happening and it's not just pushing a bunch of buttons.
Great question.
The
Speech would be a
anything that's
college class,
CAP is reviewed by the university level that
we have to
Yeah.
provide
them
that
through.
So let's say we're creating a new class here.
I think a lot of it is to sit down and review of the syllabus, trying to see what skills they're looking at, which would be with me and CTE programming. So when the CTE teachers meet and talk, they talk about those durable skills. Hey, where are we learning these skills at? What are we doing here? So that's a lot of their conversations.
Okay.
This would get looped into that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that'd be part of that conversation.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know we have our, essentially our media contract or our library contract, our computer contract, our digital contract with the students. Are we, the part that scares me more than anything probably is the social media that doesn't disappear. And the things you tweet when you're 15 matter when you're 28. I'm assuming we're teaching that in Intro to Media or something like that.
Yes. In Intro to Media, that stuff is covered.
And I think that's one of those new durable skills that we didn't have to worry about that.
I would hope we're teaching, so Intro to Media is not required. I hope that somewhere is getting covered in a required class, right?
It's part of their digital citizen stuff, but What I can say is, so we've done the Life Ready activities throughout the year on those Fridays. They actually had a meeting with CISA last week. I wasn't able to go, but they did talk about, we're going to dive into that even more next year. We're loving it. I think we can do better yet. And that's the conversation I had with a couple people today is we're going to look at it. We're going to take the top 16, which digital citizenship or any of those sort of things could be. We're going to take those and we're really going to hammer one per semester. So by the time you're a senior, you'll have hit all 16 of those. But I think that's got to be pulled into that, if you want my honest opinion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the full-time English and full-time or we're creating 1.0, I guess. Creating the 1.0 FTE English and 1.0 FTE media teacher in total, but only creating one new FTE.
I know. I got a hard time.
Well, I think it's important for
It
people to
says right-
realize we're not adding.
Increase the media position.
Yeah.
I have no room to criticize. You heard my motion earlier.
Not hiring two.
I'll second.
Angie, if you want to amend that to the second and third line of this, that would be better.
Thank you, Angie, for helping us out tonight.
So you're saying increase current English position from 0.5 to 1.0, increase current media position from 0.5 to 1.0. That's what we're doing.
Yes. That's what I meant. I
Excellent.
didn't say it
Second
well.
that. Missed it, sorry.
I think the creation is given for posting.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. A poster child that's going to Duke has thrived in our media program and wants to go to Duke computer programming in the hopes that he can develop some computer programs that work for high school media. And he's going to be a multi-millionaire before we know it. We just don't want him to forget
Is he moving back here?
I was hoping he was going to be our next media teacher.
But I mean, these are creating career opportunities for our students, so this is very much appreciated, the support.
We have a couple of students that just graduated that have their own photography businesses. One that went to Penn who got into the school business, and they said on their application that they were most impressed with his work with this. So again, it's been a great thing. I appreciate the support. I really do. I think it can take us to some new heights here. So
Speaking of, I saw on LinkedIn, he was elected class president.
yes, as a
At Penn.
freshman class president. And I don't know if he was this year as a sophomore, but yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's really
freshman
impressive.
student body president at Penn.
Pretty cool.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Okay. We are at board business. 27 minutes. Well, I'd like to set, oh, shoot, Mitch. You gave
July
me the-
16th.
Thank you. I'd like to propose July 16th.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. Is it July or was it June?
No, June 16th.
June 16th.
Yeah, I have it. I'd like to propose June 16th. It's a Monday for our summer retreat. June 16th.
I'm gonna pull out my social
That
media
even technically summer.
box and look at my calendar.
Say that
It's a great plan, Andy. Thank you for keeping us.
Let the record show.
What'd you say?
I don't even think
I
that's
think it's
technically
like-
summer.
Tropical school is 4th.
I think it's June 22nd.
Wait, what is the date we're looking at?
June 16th.
Just for a couple hours in the evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Locked in.
Yeah. I think that's good. Yeah.
You sure?
Will you be stateside?
That's what I was gonna ask him.
I'll be in Mexico the first week of June. Potentially.
Okay, I'll send out an invite.
The second.
Thank you. Second thing is, we don't spend too much time on it. I just wanted to kind of plant the seed for, we talked at the beginning of the year, maybe getting some student involvement with the board meetings. To maybe share some of these recognitions and kind of what's going on at the school. In lieu of Mr. Wainwright's presentation, or to supplement that, and then also maybe to kind of give ongoing feedback from the students, like school lunches suck, or I don't know, need more toilet paper. I don't know, but things like that are issues that students care about, that they want us to address or consider, and then B, to maybe offer some participation in the board meeting as much as possible, as kind of a learning experience, or just to feel welcome. Anyway, so, is this a good idea and concept? I think we've been making multiple attempts that have not been successful.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
It just came to mind. I do find this difficult, when we've tried a few times with Griffin and with other people.
Right.
And it's been challenging. What if we made an effort as a group to come to school on a school day and sit down with kids? Like, we could have a school board meeting during school hours or something. Just like choose a time we all make it, well enough in advance. We could take a vacation or whatever to come and actually have a school board meeting with kids here, meet them where they're at, but make it more like our meetings that we have with the teachers. But just when kids could actually be here. I'd be fascinated to talk to them about, and what's going on and what they care about and all that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even have to be an official school board meeting, but sorry, go ahead.
I think that's a really cool idea, and I'm thinking about how impossible it is to try and find a time on an evening. I mean, unless you consider Wednesday evenings, which are, more or less off limits usually. But even then, there's usually still practice. Like when we would get kids, and I know not every kid is an athlete, or not every kid is, in the play, or not every kid has everything, but to get a nice cross section at any one given evening seems almost impossible. I think there's like a week, like in late February or early March, where there's not any practices. So if we're not doing it that 1 week of the year, I don't know when else you're going to get people.
We do both, like not forget about giving an opportunity to student to come to an actual board meeting. Just leave it wide open. Like, if there's any kid that wants to try it out or do it, talk about something they want to talk about. You got 5-10 minutes, go for it.
Yeah. You can incorporate it in the new speech class.
Go.
Come give a speech to the school board.
Well, Mitch and I did meet we attended a student council meeting one day. Basically to kind of pitch this idea, like, hey, but also like, any questions for a school board member on what it's like? And, so I wouldn't say we had a super engaging conversation, but I think at a minimum, it would be kind of cool if the majority of the board showed up at like a student council meeting or some kind of leadership meeting, and said like, hey, we're all here, pick our brains if you want.
When are student council meetings?
They're over the lunch hour, once a month or something?
Mr. Austin, student council once a month?
Well, I feel like every other week they meet, depending on the time of year.
So, yeah, I mean, to be able to plan a day where you guys could come in, there's enough flexibility that they could hit something in a month where they could adjust their meeting day to work out when a number of you could be there.
Is there a set schedule, like the second and fourth Wednesday of every month or something like that? Second and fourth.
Wednesday? No.
First and third.
I think another cool setting would be like maybe the AP government class and have it, that's Mr. Cool's class, right? Maybe see if he'd be interested in, maybe if they have a unit on local government or something, and we could just come and have a panel discussion. That'd be another thought. The other thought I also had was, speaking of media program, is instead of inviting kids to present recognitions in person, that the kids put some time in to do like a pre-recorded like newscast, like, you know, specifically for the school board meeting, you know, like to us, you know, and the community, I guess, but, you know, to be shown, you know, limit the time, 5-10 minutes or whatever, to be shown at the beginning of the meeting, just like, hey, this is what's going on in Mineral Point. And then we've got Lila Thousand here on site asking kids questions about the, you know, weather. I don't know, you know, you get like maybe some informal student feedback on a certain topic. Or
Was that your media voice?
like just the
Good call.
that's why I'm sticking with my day job.
Okay. No, it wasn't awful. I was just
Well,
clarifying.
they do the announcements every day.
Right, so maybe some form of that for like a monthly recap, I'm thinking, but just a thought. Anyway, we can move on, but I just want to plant the seeds, like, be creative. How can we get students involved
I'd like to,
with school
my vision
governance?
is we order Pizza Hut out of the board budget for like, to say, I'd like a cross section of kids, like not just leadership. But then it's some like activity to help break down the barriers, because it's always awkward. Like I showed up for pictures and I'm like trying to talk to some of the kids and they're just like,
Who's this old
like,
guy?
this guy's like talking to me, you know, like laughing and like just like totally avoiding me. So it's like
Impression of an eighth
we
grade.
it was pretty good, wasn't it? We you know, like honestly want to like hear from you about like your experience here, like what's good, what's not so good, you know, what can we work on. I mean, it's funny it's like, that's a classic thing. Like I'm on the board and I know very little about the students at the end of the day, besides the one that get recognitions, right? And I don't have teenagers, and we're making decisions about cell phones and things that matter to them. So it's cool to like, be able to talk to them about it.
Well, just start thinking about some ideas. Maybe just start putting an email together, a list. Maybe we can have it at the summer retreat agenda. I think as long as we maybe hatch some sort of a tentative plan for next year to.
Let's put that on the summer agenda.
Yeah, okay, I will.
Yeah.
I think just use local pizza from Midway.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, that was a big
Oh,
faux
man.
pas.
Yeah, bad words. Real pizza. Okay, we will go to employee services. Well, we'll start by approving the resignation of Amy McDaniel, psychologist,
Yes.
effective end of the year with posting of the new position.
Yes, we would like to post the position as a psychologist or social worker, hoping to get a little bit bigger pool to draw from. We kind of did that same thing when we ended up hiring Miss Rob. It was a psychologist or social worker. So we thought that this would give us a bigger pool to draw from. They both provide a lot of similar services for the district. If we were to have to do an intellectual test, which is very rare, we might be able to contract with CISA for a day for something, that kind of service, but we typically don't need that service in-house. If we find that a school psychologist, that's perfect for us. We would certainly bring that forward, but we're just hoping to kind of to post that as an either or kind of a position.
Hey Mitch, I don't see a letter of resignation in here. How did she let us know?
Email.
Okay.
She's on maternity leave right now.
Oh,
Will be
okay.
coming back first part of May. So it was an email. Lots of regrets. I can forward that on to you.
Sure. She was just with us for a year, right?
Correct. We felt very fortunate to be able to take her from another district.
Yeah.
And as she shared an email with the elementary staff as a whole, and I'm in that list, and basically shared that she wasn't planning on leaving here. So He's the one, her husband got a job offer, northern Wisconsin. That was kind of a,
Oh, okay, so they're moving.
yes.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the resignation of the school psychologist and posting of psychology or social work
So moved.
position.
One more follow-up question. If we were to fill this as a social work position as opposed to a psychologist, is there any change to what could be reimbursed or funded?
The state, yep, the
Is,
state of
is one
Wisconsin,
more favorable than the other?
social worker.
Oh, okay.
If you, it has to be a school social worker, and if you, first year whatever the first year costs you have for it, that social worker position, you get reimbursed. What's the percentage, Angie?
Well, it is odd. I mean, that was one of one of the reasons we wanted to expand it to include social worker, because if that's the most qualified candidate, we will have that. But as we did it, the last 2 years, it's an increased cost from like in this case, it was last year's cost to the year before cost. So as the changing cost over 2 years, you get reimbursed for a portion of that, but then there's like a level 2 funding where if you even submit an application, they divvy out this pot of level 2 funds to all the districts that applied, and we actually made more in the level 2 pot than what we did in the difference of cost. So Danielle's on it. Danielle and I have submitted the last couple of years, but I don't really understand their formula funding, because it was like a 2-stage funding process, and the second stage had nothing to do with our actual costs. It had to do with how many districts applied for reimbursement. So I don't remember the cost as a percent of our increased cost.
Yeah, and I want to say it was high. I want to say it was like a 90, you get like 90% increased cost.
Yeah, and we can reapply every year, so any amount of increased cost. So like this year, our cost when we, from whatever, even just the salary increase with CPI, that's an increased cost for us, so.
When we first brought Ms. Rob in, we were using COVID monies, because that was one of the requirements for COVID money, is you had to bring in somebody in that SEL, right? So all of it was there. Then we started moving a portion over. So every year we moved a portion over, whatever was the additional portion, we were getting a reimbursement for.
And it was also weird in the fact that they didn't care how the funding came back, if it was a grant or SL or whatever, we got reimbursed for any cost, regardless of how they were funded, which we didn't realize until we were filling it out either.
It's hard to believe anybody wants to investigate federal funding.
Mind-boggling, isn't it? That could be
Okay,
a
we've got
class.
a motion and a second, I think. Was that you and Justin? Okay. Any other discussion on this? Go ahead, Angie.
There.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the resignation of the high school instructional assistant and posting of the position
Or next year.
for next year.
I'll make a motion.
Seconded.
We have a long-term sub that will fill right now till the end of this.
She gave a 2-week notice,
Yes.
right? But the psychologist is serving out the end of her year.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Any other comments or discussion on this one? Okay, Angie?
Johnston.
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, hiring the middle school science teacher. So, yeah,
We need to table that. They conducted interviews. They have a candidate 1A and 1AA. They would like to do a second round of interviews. So they've asked that we table this. We'll bring it back in the May, but very happy that they have, out of all of the interviews, they have 2 candidates that really stand out and like to do that second round. So they're trying to arrange to make it work for the 2 candidates to be able to get here for a second interview.
That we table this to the April 28th meeting.
Second. Okay, Bush, Skelding. All right, we're gonna table the middle school science teacher hire till the April 28th special meeting. Any discussion?
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is approval of the preliminary notice of non-renewal for position services no longer needed. Do you want to give a brief explanation, Mitch, and then we can either make a motion in open session or we can
We can have follow-up. If you go to closed session, we can have follow-up conversation, come back out and make the motion coming out of the closed session as well.
we can vote on this after closed session if someone would like to discuss any issues in closed session about this.
Two staff members that provide services to two students graduating no longer have a need for the services. Based on the type of contracts they have, we have to go through the non-renewal process. This is step one. Preliminary, you voting move forward with a preliminary notice, then I will craft the letter, spell out the timelines for the two staff members. They're well aware of it. They just chose to go this route. I offered up, you could certainly tender a letter of resignation effective the end of the school year, or how would you like to go about this? You go ahead and do the non-renewal process. So that's why I'm here at this point in time.
I'll make a motion. We approve the preliminary notice of non-renewal.
Second.
This is a preliminary notice. That means staff have a certain period of time to request a hearing with the board. If there is no hearing, then there's a final non-renewal.
Correct.
At the May meeting, is that where it happens, or at special meeting?
Bless you.
Thank you.
Would not have to be a special board meeting. Preliminary notice has to be out by April 28th. And then final renewal prior to May 15th. So we could do it at the May board meeting. I don't anticipate requests for a meeting. Again, both staff members are well aware that this day was going to eventually come about.
Any other discussion?
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we move to closed session pursuant. What's that?
I was gonna second.
State statute 1985 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation of a public employee.
I will second that well-worded motion.
I learned to read from the paper. You don't need to
Hopefully I have
reinvent the
that.
wheel.
Right,
Words are there.
they are.
We're basically discussing staff compensation changes for next year in closed session. Okay. Roll call. Roll call.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, thank you to those online. We're going to go into closed session. Then we'll come back and do final vote.